Oh, okay. However it works. I'm starting it right.
The live guest on a podcast called J is for Justice.
I think they're just hopeful that she returns no matter what. Oh my God, that's Megan's house. Oh my God. Oh my God.
And then,
wait a second, you guys. We have breaking news. All of a sudden in the chat, there was breaking news that there was a raid going on in Houston, Texas. It may be connected to a high-profile case.
That's her best friend. She would not be there.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being so damn patient. Woo, that was a shit show, but we got our stuff straight. We should be live on both channels. I've never done this before.
I think so.
So I want to welcome Kim to my channel, and also I have Dre with me tonight.
Hey, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, guys.
All right. So I want to preface right now by saying, obviously, I think I have like a couple mods here. Hopefully they're not overwhelmed, but if you act like an asshole, I'm just going to be blunt. You're going to get removed. I don't care what your view is. You can have whatever view you want as long as you're respectful. That's all I ask. Please have an open mind and be respectful to my guests, because I'm not going to put up with my guests being slammed or anything in chat. You will be removed. So with that being said, we're gonna go over some of the things that Kim has already brought out on her channel and kind of, take some questions from those in order to keep everybody on topic and, we're not all over the place. We're going to do member only questions and super chat questions, but I'll let you know when we're at that point. Because chat just moves so fast. There's no way for us to possibly keep up. I just think that'd be easiest. So, without further ado, let's get going because we're starting a little late tonight. But it's all good. I think that everybody can hear us, right?
I think
so.
I think we're good.
All right. Is KC in chat tonight? Do we know? I was going to wrench her. I don't see her. Okay. So, Kim, you have put out some pretty mind-blowing videos this past couple weeks.
Thank you.
I have to say, I was super shocked, when you came out of the woodwork with that intro. And I was like, who is this?
Yeah.
Who is this? Now, you and I never really crossed paths, in the very beginning. I heard your name. But I never really crossed paths with you. So why don't you tell us?
Stay low.
Yeah, tell us a little bit.
Place.
I want to start with tell us about your journey going into this before we even roll into all of the information that you've uncovered. Tell me about when you first heard about the case and how you became friends with the Watts.
I first heard about the case day one, because my family is all from Colorado and they're all from the area. And so it was immediate. And I remember there was a bunch of friends of mine that were talking about it. And I remember seeing stuff on the news and I was like, if it's from that area, this is not going to be good for anybody involved. I just knew that the investigation, you're talking about small town Frederick, having an officer even respond to that. It was like, so I remember just some friends were talking and they were like, you reach out to this person because they're like, you're very, you talk very inspirationally to people sometimes. And so I sent her a message and Cindy said, of all the thousands of messages she got, she's like, yours just stood out. It was different. And we've been talking ever since.
Well, it seems to me that you've been the only constant that hasn't screwed them over. Really.
That's what she says every day. Her and Ronnie say the same thing.
They have been through the ringer, bless their hearts that they're so trusting. You can just tell they're just very simple, just down home, trusting, simple people. They don't look for the worst in people when they meet them, right? So they put their trust in a lot of the wrong people who took advantage of them. And I think it's super cool. I'm so glad that you were there. Go ahead.
Well, they were just going through so much trauma. People don't realize they're just grasping for comfort probably at that time, you know?
Yeah.
They're wanting to know. They have so many questions themselves. And so I think they're also talking to people to find answers, you know?
Well, I would have to think, and if I was in their shoes, there was so much hate towards them that the few that reached out and actually showed some compassion, of course, they're going to grasp onto that. You know, they're vulnerable. So I just think it's super cool. I'm so glad that you stuck by and you stayed quiet for these 2 years. So what have you been doing for 2 years since this happened?
Well, talking to a lot of people, getting a lot of feedback from people that are qualified to give opinions, and working with Cindy through this whole process. I mean, she had no clue what was going on. They weren't communicating with her. We tried to get information toward their defense team. They weren't taking it. They kept saying, we're not trying to do that. We're just trying to save his life. And we knew that wasn't even important. They weren't even going to go for the death penalty. And so I just kept my head down and would try to walk them through the emotions of what they were going through as people were coming in and out. They are so trusting and so,
naive,
kind and forgiving. And
they're naive. They're a little naive.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't say that.
Fault.
No, I don't say that.
Cindy right 100 times.
I don't mean that in a negative way. They're naive. They're just sheltered. They've been in their little town and that's who they are.
You got to think. You got a lot of these people.
Yeah, and I've said to them,
a lot of these people come to them and say, "Hey, we want to help you, but how do you weed out
the bad from the
crazy
good
people?"
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, you weed out the bad people, the crazy people,
the opportunists.
Yes, the Watts family to me seems like down home country people that can be taken advantage of in this case.
100%.
From
and that's the thing. So sad. I've told them without this case, they are perfect family. They are great to each other, kind, you know, but when they're going through this kind of case, it's just, it's hard. It's hard for them.
So what made you go on this quest? When did you, I guess my question is, did you think he was guilty or innocent from the very beginning when you first heard about the case? And then did your mind change, or how has this progressed?
Never. I've always thought he was innocent. I just, when I watched him on that front porch interview specifically, I know everyone was like, he's so guilty. And then my mind just started going through all these different cases where people were overly emotional. And I was like, they're probably guilty. Or they were, saying, I can stay here. I'm waiting for them to come home. And I don't know, I saw nervous, certain information, conversation like that was something that stood out to me because most people would leave that out, of the conversation. But I always just believed his story. I looked at it and I was looking at the investigation, who was handling it. And he just seemed not overly excessive in his information and wasn't trying so hard to celebrate. He would just answer their questions, which I thought was, a lot of people go, well, he lied during the interview. I'm like, yeah, but he lied. Obviously, he never was just giving all this extra information and leading them on a wild goose chase. He wasn't doing that. And so I was paying attention to those details. And then obviously as the case opened up more, I was just watching everything I could.
Yeah, because usually when people are lying, and I'm sorry, our audio got a little crazy there for for a minute.
Okay.
But I think we got the gist of what you were saying. But I'm trying not to read chat. I told myself I wasn't going to read chat because I don't want to get diverted, and it's going to make me angry too.
But
my mods got it. My mods got it.
I covered mine.
Right. Okay, cool. So what was I saying? I'm sorry.
We were talking about how, like, from the beginning, if I thought he's innocent or thought that.
Yes, because when people lie, they always give too many details to try to be convincing.
Yeah.
And he didn't do that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So, all right. So you thought he was innocent. Then you became friends with the family. And then you saw all of this go down, like, in real time, right? So they go out to Wisconsin. Yeah, I mean, you're like on the front lines watching all of this. I mean, when you found out they went to Wisconsin, did you have a conversation? Like, how did you find that out? How did the family find out that they went and visited him in Wisconsin?
Okay, well, we have to back up first because I was the one that got Cindy on her Facebook originally when they first were notified that there was a plea deal. And I was the one Cindy on there, like, you need an attorney now because his defense team wasn't working for him. And then we were able to be hooked up with G Powers. I mean, do you want me to go through that part first before Wisconsin? Because
sure,
that's its own beast. We probably should talk about first.
Sure.
Okay. So the family wasn't being communicated with, and it was not because Chris didn't want to. It's because his attorneys were saying, don't talk. And the Watts weren't recognized as victims right away. And so they weren't getting all the information from the beginning that they should have been getting. And we know why now. I mean, that would have obviously stopped this whole process in its tracks. But I was the one that helped the family get Gene Powers. I was on the phone Powers. We knew everything that she was.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but for people who don't know, can you explain who she is? Or who she was supposed to be?
Gene Powers is, better way to say it. She was the attorney that decided to represent the Watts so they could get their statement read in court to Chris during the sentencing hearing. She ended up getting in front, like, going up there, and she was only supposed to introduce Cindy and Ronnie. And when she got up there, she went on a 10-minute speech that was 100% no one knew she was going to say what she said. And Cindy and Ronnie were so nervous that they didn't hear a word she even said. And it absolutely wasn't true. None of it. The Watts never saw information from the DA. They never changed their mind about Chris. This whole, I mean, it was terrifying, honestly, even watching it as it was going live. I'm like, what is going on? And I could see Cindy just staring at the podium and just kind of a blank look on her face. And I'm like, I don't even think she knows what this lady is saying. And Ronnie was the same thing, just blank. And afterwards, I'm like, what happened? And Cindy had no idea. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what was she saying in there? I played the audio for her. And the sound of Cindy, like, she was just like, no, like, what? Like, she was so upset because it wasn't true.
Can I ask you something really about that?
To click my head.
Yeah, can I ask you something about that? Because one thing I've seen a lot of comments made about that hearing was that when Cindy went up and spoke, she got a lot of backlash for going up and taking that opportunity instead of talking about the girls, the victims, that she took that opportunity to tell Chris that she loved him. So a lot of people had an issue with that. You know, so has she...
Well, I think they were only told to talk to Chris. Like, they had specific limits, I think, what they're supposed to say. And I think that it was literally, they were told...
Kim, we lost you.
Are you there?
Yeah, we lost you.
Okay, are you there? I don't know what's going on. It's so choppy, I think.
You're robotic a little bit. Are you on AirPods?
Oh my gosh. Am I still... No, not at all.
Hey, Dre.
I'm on microphone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk for a second. I want to make sure it's not me.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, it's Kim. It's your connection or something.
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, we're just going to have to decipher the robotic Kim from the regular Kim sometimes.
Can you hear me right now? Is it robotic still right now?
Not right now. It's in and out. It cuts in and out.
Weird. Okay.
Okay. So, well, let me finish. I understand that she went up there. She went up there and she took the opportunity to tell Chris, you know, she loved him, forgave him. And I get from a mother's desperation. I do. I see both sides. Like, I can see where that would, you know, that would rub some people the wrong way. And I could see the other side of just being a mom, you know. But with that being said, why did the advocate get up there to speak? Why didn't they speak? You know what I'm saying? Did they say, oh, we just can't do it, or we can't find the words? What was the deal there? Because they got up to talk to Chris. I mean, Ronnie didn't say anything, but Cindy did. Why didn't they read a statement of their own? I just didn't understand where she came in with that.
So she, like I said, she was literally only there because she had to process the paperwork so the judge would allow them to be recognized as victims, because by law, they were supposed to be recognized as victims from the very beginning, and they weren't. And so when we found out that they were supposed to be recognized as victims, we got in touch with the victim advocate place in Colorado. That Jean Powers said that she would represent them and put the paperwork in. The judge signed it off. And then they went the night before to go meet with the DA, or it was assistant DA actually. And they said, we only have a theory. And that it was Chris did this to be with his girlfriend. And then the next day in court, Jean Powers was only supposed to get up there and introduce them. And it was very like, this is only to Chris. And so as they stood up there, they did not hear a word. Cindy said, like, my legs were shaking so bad.
God.
I was so nervous.
I can imagine
anything.
I get that.
Yeah,
I understand that.
Yeah. And so they had their statement that they were only supposed to read. They had no idea where she got the information because she just put it off the top of her head.
Right.
And said it off the top of her head. And so they had no idea. And like I said, when they were leaving and I was playing the audio, like, this is what she said. She was like, no. And that was like a big red flag of like, okay, wait a minute. This lady said some really, really powerful things. Why would she do that? And then it started making sense, like all these other issues with the case and how Chris was treated and what was going on. You know, like after Chris got arrested, they were supposed to be able to meet up with Chris later. And then, of course, once they took him back, Ronnie never got to see him again. And Ronnie came to the police station twice, had changed his flights for 2 different days, and was like, I need to speak with my son. Like, where is he at? And they totally just swooped him up.
This was before when Ronnie was still there from the confession?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So say that again?
Yeah. So after you see them talking about getting a lawyer, he mentioned it multiple times. And then they're saying, please check the sound. Can you guys not hear anything?
I can hear you, girl.
I don't know if they can hear.
No,
okay.
It's just it cuts out a little bit. I think it might be your internet connection. Are you connected with an Ethernet cord or Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
I don't know what is happening.
Are you on an Ethernet cord or Wi-Fi?
Oh, they're saying Zoom is notorious for cutting out, and they think it's from the YouTube update. I don't know why that would be.
Well, you're the only one that's cutting out.
I'm hooked in.
Dre's not cutting.
I know. I don't understand why. You're cutting out on my side.
I am?
And they're saying, I hear you. On my side, they're saying, I'm unable
we're
bugged to hear all of them well.
I think we're bugged.
Hey, we could be bugged. FBI.
Because
we probably are.
You know what?
They do not want this audio going out.
No, seriously, because this is crazy. And how about your update? Like that was...
I know.
I'm thinking we're bugged.
They're definitely watching us.
All right, we are bugged. That's good. All right. So they're saying it's better than it has been.
Yeah, what I was saying was when Chris was arrested, you heard him in there talking about getting an attorney multiple times. And then they kind of walked right out like, oh, yeah, we'll help you with that, whatever. And then they took Ronnie to a hotel that night and was told to meet back up with them in the morning. And Ronnie goes back to the police station in the morning and they act like they didn't even know who he was. Like, sorry, you can't talk to Chris and you can't talk to anybody. And they just kept dismissing him. And Ronnie's like, wait a minute, what is going on? And then he was there like on and off all day. Like, I'm trying to talk to Chris. Like, I need to speak with my son. And they wouldn't let him. And so he was going to get on a flight to go home and then changed his flight and was like, I'm staying, and tried for a second day to go there, talk to Chris. And they said, this is not the right day for you to be able to talk to him. And then Ronnie had no choice but to go home. So that was terrible. So then when Jean Powers got up in court, we were like, man, this whole situation, especially with the things she said, like, I was like, is she working in the pocket of the DA? Like, why would she say the things she said? It was crazy.
Well,
we had no idea. It was so scary.
Let's go back. Oh my God. There's so much. Okay.
I know there's so much, huh?
Yeah. So let's go back to Chris actually picking up his dad from the airport, and like the misconceptions that his confession contained all three, him confessing to all three, and why and how that was put out to the media. I want to get that out there because I've already seen a couple comments, people saying, well, then why did he confess to it initially? So I think we need to really clear that part up.
Explain that. Yeah. Cool. So when Chris picked up Ronnie from the airport, they talked sports like on the way there because Chris wanted to get to the police station and do it the right way. That was the biggest thing about even going to the police, is he was just waiting for his dad to get there to have the conversation.
Okay.
Now, and the only thing he did say to Ronnie on the way.
Go ahead.
The only thing he did say on the way to the airport was, I wish I would have just gone to the game that night. That's it. That's the only thing he mentioned that was close to this was, I just wish I would have gone.
Did Ronnie know what he was talking about when he said that?
Not really. I mean, the fact that Shanann was not around, like missing, you know.
Well, I have to say, Kim.
No, he didn't.
I just want to say, like, if I heard that and like all this stuff hadn't been released, the Watts family tapes, their calls, and honestly, I'm gonna be honest. Listening to Chris and Ronnie speak, I felt like I shouldn't even be listening to this conversation because there was no substance. Like, it was just, a father and son just shooting the shit, basically. But it was very, I could just tell that neither Ronnie nor Chris are the ones that are going to get in the car and be like, okay, so what's going on? They're going to be like, oh, hey, whatever.
Not at all.
Did you catch this game? And, it just, if I didn't hear that, I would say bullshit. But since I've seen those, and that's why I'm glad that some of that is out there, because all of that stuff, people go, oh, quit giving him airtime. Oh, But it puts all of the pieces together because we don't know these people. As viewers, we're all watching this crime unfold as a, true crime, any true crime that we watch. So every single thing is a piece of the puzzle. And their relationship is
important. Yeah.
So important.
Exactly. Yeah. And Jay, I hope I don't sound disrespectful for cutting in, but to me, it kind of debunks some of those theories of Ronnie being, oh, well, he had to have been in on it. No, it was a normal, natural relationship between father and son. There was nothing abnormal about Ronnie just going about his everyday life and eventually getting with his son and talking to him in a police department. A lot of people have come up with these theories, these really off the wall, outlandish theories about Ronnie and the Watts family as a whole. That kind of debunks that theory of like, oh, well, he had to have been in on it. He knew. That doesn't really set the precedent.
I think their conversations, it's so clear.
Very clear.
What their conversation was like in that car.
Yeah.
I mean, Ronnie's just like Chris. I mean, they avoid conflict at all. I mean, you've heard Chris say before, like his dad they're one and the same. Like they don't talk about feelings. They don't expose personal issues. They don't They don't. They talk about sports. Even now with Chris in prison, they talk about sports. I mean, they don't talk about anything.
That was like the single most important visit. I mean, and I was just sitting there like, kind of like frustrated, like, come on, to ask him something, but it was just, you could just tell it was awkward. They don't do that. They don't talk like that.
No.
So and
in the beginning of that conversation though, when they were supposed to go out, and the whole premise of that conversation was they were supposed to be able to come out and have an open conversation with Chris and be able to finally talk about what was going on, what the plea deal was for, and to figure it out. And so they start this conversation, and you see a point where Chris turns over his shoulder because Cindy's asking him and like telling him like, don't do this or whatever. And the attorney over Chris's shoulder says, Cindy, if you say one more thing about this, we will end everything. So what we began to realize is that you're supposedly given all these things, that you have these rights and you have these rights and you can speak up and you can talk and we realized quickly that all of those rights were not actually rights. And that was frustrating and it was scary. And even Chris felt that. I can go back, Jay, for a second too, of everyone has heard that when Chris was walking into that very, very, very first court appearance, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a reporter who yelled out to Chris, why did you kill your whole entire family? I mean, I'm sure people remember that because it's been played over and over again.
Yeah.
And you guys, Chris didn't even know why he said that. He said he felt like his insides like a turn, and he'd be like, why would you say that to me? He had no idea that night when he told them, when he talked to Ronnie, he had no idea that they went out to the media and lied and said that he had killed his whole family. That was the first time he heard that.
Okay, so basically,
and he said it made him sick to his stomach.
So basically, he admitted to what we've heard from the discovery, right?
Yeah.
Was that we know what that story is. I'm not going to rehash it over and over, but the original confession of him, Shanann, and the Shanann hurting the girls. That was what he confessed to.
Right.
It never went to,
right.
Oh, okay, you got me. I did it all. What it went from was that confession to where the bodies were. And then the police announced that he did them all. But did they say he confessed? Or did they say...
Yes.
Okay, so they did actually use that wording.
He confessed to killing his whole family. Yeah.
Okay.
So they lied instantly.
Okay.
And he had no idea. I mean, and then that was scary for the Watts because they're like, wait, what? What is going on? Like, that's not what happened, So, but we know now why that had happened. And there was a big misconception about his confession. Can I talk about that for a second, Jay?
Sure.
Okay, so they used a technique, and I put a video on my channel that breaks these couple things down, where they first did try to blame Shanann, and Chris says no, and he gives some reasons, and then the detective goes, I knew you'd do that because you protect her and you do all that. And then they went immediately into themes. And what interrogators do is they use these different crime themes as a way to elicit an emotional response from the person so they can kind of figure out how a crime happened, because they'll have these different things that will alert them to, okay, perfect. He has an emotional response to this kind of crime. This is similar then to what he did. So they went into talking about a man who had murdered his family with a ball-peen hammer. Clearly, Chris did not have an emotional response to that. And then they went into a mother who had smothered her kids. And Chris was like, why? And that's when he kind of started to break down. Chris had just wanted to talk to his dad. They put him in this room for like 6 hours, questioned him back and forth. And even when during the polygraph, when it got to the end, they're talking the questions. Chris asked Tammy specifically, these questions you're going to ask, is it going to also cover the girls? Like if I answer for Shanann, is it going to be for the girls too? And she said no. And so Chris answered all questions about Shanann, which to me was a red flag. Like, why would you not, while you're there? And Chris is bad. His score was terrible. Why would you not just make sure and ask about the girls? Same 3 questions about he's asking for his dad. He's like, guys, talk to my dad, please. And they say to him, can I ask you a few more questions? And they just kept saying that. And Chris was like in his head, like, I just want to talk to my dad. And then once they bring his dad in, he starts on this story and he starts telling, his dad what happened. And then the detectives come in, investigators come in, and he never lied. What happened? My audio is completely cut. Can you hear me, Jay?
I can hear you. You cut out for a second.
Okay. What did you hear me last saying?
No, we kept.
Am I good?
Yeah, you're good. Don't worry about. They freak out when you cut out for like a millisecond. So, in chat's it's a little delayed too. So, if you're bad, I'll stop you. Cool. I'll stop you when it gets like I can't understand. Okay, cool. But I wanna.
Too bad.
Go ahead. Okay. I want you to finish your thought, and then I have a question.
Okay, so they bring his dad in. He immediately starts talking to him, and then they end up coming in once they're talking about an attorney. You hear him talk about a lawyer, and they come in. And what's so important is that Chris, in their talk, they knew he'd tell the truth. So when they used the first technique, which was doing the themes, actually when they mention Shanann, he says no, and he dismisses that. He clears her.
Wait.
And they go,
you cut out. You cut out. When he what, Shanann?
Okay. So when they go through blaming Shanann and he says no, then they bring in the themes, and his theme, the emotional reaction he had was to the woman who smothered her kids. So that one worked. And then they bring in Ronnie, and that worked. He started talking to his dad right away. So when they came back in, this is crucial because people don't realize that you have to decide, like, when did Chris start lying and when did he not? When did he stop? Because when they came in with the paper and they wanted to know where Shanann was at, Chris didn't lie. I mean, he was like, when's this taken? They said today. So he looks at it and he puts initials on the tanks, the right ones. He doesn't lead them on a goose chase. He doesn't tell them a different site or a different location. He tells them exactly where they're at. And every question they had after that, he's answering. So you have to think about that.
Right.
Like when they use these 2 techniques that they say will get a confession, his dad comes in, he immediately tells him this one story. They come in and then he keeps telling the truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I guess Tammy, I don't know why people have such a hard time grasping this, but go ahead.
Well, then Tammy's talking and she's like, so after he does all this and he gives him all the information, she was like, Chris, you want us to go out there and say Shanann did this? And he's like, yes, I didn't hurt my girls. And then she says it aggressively again. And he was like, yes, I didn't hurt my girls. And I could tell that she was having an emotional response. Like she was upset. And then here we go. The news breaking. 2 top officials confirm that Chris Watts has just confessed to killing his whole family. And I was like, oh boy, like you just see this.
So why has no one ever questioned why in the discovery that he confessed to all of it? Because we didn't hear that until Wisconsin. So it's crazy.
He never changed the story. Well, what happened was when because they released it like that and they never corrected it, which is why his defense team started putting these motions in to have an investigation, because they were clearly releasing false information on purpose to taint the public, which is against Chris's constitutional right. And then 2 weeks later, when the actual his confession came out, then like Good Morning America was like, now he changed his story, because people didn't know for those 2 weeks that was his story. It never changed. And they just flipped it on him. They flipped it on everybody.
Okay.
And so they got everyone emotionally invested in that he killed his whole family. I mean, everybody. And then his affidavit came out, like, now he's changed his mind. And we're like, oh, crud, that's not good, you know?
Right.
Bad. It was bad.
Okay. So with that being said, I want to ask you, when he was arrested, did they not tell him what he was being charged with that day? Like, why?
I don't think so.
Like, they wouldn't have said, like, you know, Chris, you're being charged with Shanann, Bella, and Cece's murders. Because if they didn't, I mean, I can see why he would be unaware, but if they did, why not fight that? Why not fight that?
Well, no, he didn't even know any of that. And I mean, that was the problem, is he, like I said, when he walked into court that day and that guy yelled out, "Why did you kill your whole family?" He had no idea why that guy said that. He had no idea. He had no idea that the whole world was told that he killed this whole family.
Okay, so when did they bring...
He was horrified about that.
When did they bring the plea deal up to him?
So they actually brought the plea deal to him 1 week after being in jail.
1 week?
Yeah.
So this plea deal went down in August, and then the sentencing was obviously in November. So
right.
Was he aware of it in August, and did he tell them right away what he would do? Or did he sit on it?
No, he sat on it for a while. Yeah, he sat on it. Of course. I mean, you could see in the motions that his defense team was doing, that they were like, this is wrong and this is wrong, and we need an expert for this. And I think that's what they realized is they were just putting out information that was so wrong. I synced the audio of his confession and put it on my channel because people were like, when they released even the audio later, everything was skewed. And with Chris, I mean, it's like when he originally had those charges, I mean, even his mind, like, he was so in such a, like, a fog, in such a, what would you say, like, just numb, like completely blacked out. And so when they were talking to him about this plea deal, he was, I mean, I think that he was like, what is going on? I mean, he had no idea. He was put in suicide watch. He had no connection to anybody, was told he couldn't. They weren't giving him any communication with his family. He had no idea what was going on. I'll tell you this, though. It was like a week and a half or 2 weeks after this whole thing started. There was a point, because they had to close off and, like, paper the walls and the windows shut to all the other cells or prisoners, whatever, because they didn't want to see Chris walking around in there. And I remember he was telling me that there was a TV that was turned on and he saw his family on the TV and he just dropped to his knees. And he realized in that moment that it was like
his family, like his parents or his...
No, like his wife and his kids.
Oh.
Like, he saw him on the news.
Wow.
And he just dropped to his knees and just, like, lost it, I guess.
When was that? How early on was that?
That was a couple weeks. It was like a couple weeks after he was in jail.
Wow. I mean,
after he was arrested.
God, there's just so much. Like,
he was just in shock. He was in shock. I know.
You know, and I've always said, like, I've gone back and forth, like, by the hour, I could go back and forth.
Right.
But we never had a trial, obviously, so we never saw all of this evidence broken down, and we never saw all of the evidence either, because there were things that I picked up that I wanted to ask you about that I noticed. So, I'm sorry, I just got a text. So one of the things was,
okay.
I mean, I don't want to get off track, but I'll make a note of it. We'll come back to it.
That's good.
But let's keep going from the confession part. So let's go back to they're releasing that he confessed to everything. He didn't. He gets put in jail. He says, you know, he doesn't know what's going on. He's not communicated with by his defense.
Right.
Like they're not letting him know what's going on. He's just kind of left to the wolves, so to speak.
Yeah. 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 No idea. He had no idea what was going on.
So he wasn't discussing anything about this. He had no one to converse with. I mean, we're talking about a guy who like everybody made his decisions for him. It seems like.
Right.
So I'm just picturing him like just sitting there by himself with this plea deal. What do I do? Who's giving him advice at this point?
Nobody. I mean, it's sad because they just kept putting into his head that he had to be responsible for this. And that's what the one thing that sticks out so clearly in my mind. Cindy was talking about when they were in the assistant DA's office the night before. One of the ladies in there was like, your son is so good. He's doing the right thing. You raised a good boy. He's taking responsibility for everything, for everybody. And I'm like, oh, it's just creepy. Like it was so creepy. And that's kind of what it just got broken down to. Like if he had never had an affair, none of this would happen. Mm-hmm. And so it was, you're just responsible for taking care of everything. And it was, I mean, he was told that in Colorado, no matter what, if you hurt one person, you're going away to prison for life anyways. And it was basically like his family was all gone. Everyone was so traumatized by the case, his family, her family, all the responders. And it was like the pressure on Chris of don't put anyone through this. Like they don't deserve that. It's hard enough. They've already been through enough. Like, don't do anything else. You need to be responsible for this. And that was the message that was given to him.
Wow. Okay. So
yeah. And they came, I know his defense team did come to his cell the day before, which we're in question about because the Watts didn't talk to the assistant DA until the night before, like at 9 p.m. But Chris says his defense team came the day before and told him that his parents talked to the assistant DA, saw all the evidence against him, completely changed their mind against him. And he was like, what? And they had no evidence. And Chris kept asking, he did ask his defense team, what evidence do they have? And he was like, I don't know. They kept telling me, I don't know. And never told him anything. And when he heard that, he was like, what is going on? And his mom had actually written him a letter because his defense team was not doing anything. They couldn't get a hold of him. They were answering phone calls. And she wrote a letter to Chris that was like, do not take this plea deal. You are getting railroaded. Stop everything. And it was never given to Chris. And guess when it showed up? He walked back from his cell from being sentenced and it was on his head.
Really?
They held it for like 10 or so days. And it was terrible. Was
there other mail that was on his bed as well? Like, did they hold all his mail before he took the plea?
Yeah, but he was getting all his other mail is being delivered to him. Hers was not.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy.
And he wasn't allowed to call them?
No, he was told not to. Like, he tried to call Ronnie one time and Ronnie was doing something, didn't answer, but then was basically like, don't do that again. And like I said, even when they were flown out there to talk about the plea deal and had this open conversation, and that's corruption, whatever you want to call it, that was so weird with power in court. She was like, thank you to the court for affording the opportunity to come out here, for Chris to exercise his right to talk about the plea with his family, and never even happened. I mean, they didn't have, you saw the tapes. That was their discussion.
I got to stop you. You're pretty robotic.
Allowed to talk about anything else. If I started up time, that lady said behind him, okay. Can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me now?
No, you're robotic.
It's a little behind too, a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have like a lot of things?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Do you have a lot of things open?
What's happening?
Like, do you have a lot of things running in the background?
Nothing. Like literally just us right here. That's it. None. Like literally nothing. I don't know what is happening. Hey, but I'm not gonna lie. We probably have some in our internet.
Why don't you hop off Zoom and come back in? See if it's better.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Okay. Gosh, we got to try something because that one got bad.
That was really bad. It was like 8 seconds behind.
I know. And then for me, it skips, and then it skips like a whole sentence of hers.
Yeah, and then it sounds like she's underwater for like 3.5 seconds.
Okay, so I'm glancing at chat. I'm trying not to. Do I need to slow it down? I can't tell.
Maybe a little bit. It's a little racy. It's racing a little.
Slow it down. Okay. I just want to say, like, I see a lot of really bad comments. Why bother? Like,
that's my thing. If you don't have a reasoning behind
yes, like a constructive comment.
Thank you. Yes, girl, that's what I was going for. I can't sometimes muster up my feelings, but
That's
yeah,
all right.
if you can't.
I can't sometimes either, and sometimes I can't remember what we were talking about. So
well, then it's like you got somebody saying this lady is stupid.
Yeah, I can't.
Okay, why do you feel that way? Like maybe come up with something that actually has intelligence behind your comment.
I just don't know how they can deny the fact that it was put out in the media that he confessed to all three, but when we watch the discovery and the audio from the discovery, it says a different story. So why is everyone getting so
bent?
Yes, I don't care. I say, oh, she's a fangirl. Da, da, da. I don't care what her motive was for getting involved, but the bottom line is she's uncovered and she's put together a lot of pieces of the puzzle, whether you want to believe it or not. Now, some of it, hasn't been like verified and like she hasn't gone over everything, but what she has gone over has obviously been interesting or you wouldn't be watching. Okay. You may not agree with it, but you're still watching because you're interested. If you weren't interested, you wouldn't be here. Whether you're making a positive comment or not, you're still here because you're interested. Now, everything that she's gone over has been from the discovery. I have not heard Kim utter one negative thing about Shanann personally.
No. And Sherilyn Pratt, if you feel like you're not getting bent, then come to the table with something of ethics. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm seeing some pretty crude comments calling Kim an idiot. Bashing someone versus giving your own sound opinion is two different things. So come to the table with a narrative.
I just don't.
And then I'll look at you with a credible mindset.
Hold on. Brittany just super chatted. R.I.P. Bella and Cece disposed into tanks by their sweet, innocent dad, Chris Watts. I believe their spirits are disrupting this. Thank God. Oh, wow. Okay. It's just, no one loves the way that this went down. It's it's a true crime that we follow. No one is happy about the outcome. No one is happy that a mother and two girls and a fetus are dead. No one's happy about that. But we want to know what happened. We never got a second look at this. And Kim has broke it down and given us a second look. So let's be respectful of that.
Exactly. And I mean, here's my thing. If you don't agree, that's okay. Jay's not saying like, oh, you have to agree with what I'm rolling with. Just hear another side. That's the biggest thing. Can we look at a true crime case, especially of this caliber, and look at it from a different side and not sit there and bash all these sides just because you feel a certain way?
Right.
Open your mindset.
If we took a second look at Ted Bundy's case, would everyone be up in arms? Oh, it's going to bring up for the victims. No, you wouldn't give a shit. So stop. You don't know these people.
If you don't agree, that's totally fine. I'm not sitting there saying, Joe 7. Nope, you don't have to agree, girl. Jennifer Kaiserlingren, you don't have to agree. You do not have to agree. That's not a disclaimer in Jay's chat where you have to agree with the narrative. Jay's giving a narrative on all sides. So yes, she does see one side one day. Another day she sees another side. She has said this many a times. If you actually genuinely watch Jay is for Justice, you'll see all sides. That's okay if you don't agree, but come to the table with something of sound knowledge.
Damn, Dre.
Well, I'm done with this bullshit.
Well, for real, it's like we're just taking a second look at a case. We don't know these people.
Exactly. And there's some people in here saying, well, is he protecting Nicole Kessinger? Jay, you know my theories. He could possibly be. I don't know. That's where we got to put our minds together and look at this case with an open mindset.
Yeah, how come no one gets mad at all these people that blame Kessinger? No one gets mad about that. If she's an innocent girl who was just having an affair with Chris Watts, don't you think it's a little unfair what she's had to go through? That she's had to change her identity? That she has had to move away, and we have series on YouTube analyzing her. Come on.
Yeah, picking her. And Jay, you know how I feel about her. You know how I feel about her, but I wouldn't want that for somebody. Like, that's not right.
Right. So everybody just take a step back. Like, I don't know Shanann. I never knew Shanann. I don't know Chris.
Yeah, we don't know.
But I haven't had anybody from Shanann's family come to me and say, hey, I want to talk. I want to get this out. I've never had that. If they did, I would say yes. But
okay, so this Jennifer woman keeps saying Kim is a no one and you are acting like she is the DA.
Oh, wow.
How?
All right, we're not going to address this stuff. She's coming back on right now. I'm not arguing with these people. The bottom line is we're looking at all aspects. And you're obviously interested because you're here. So there's 1,000 people here. It's a lot of people.
Hell, I didn't see that.
There's 1,000. There's 1,000 people here. So you're here because you're interested. We haven't had anybody else break it down. We haven't had a trial. I just texted her back. And I don't want to argue with people. That's what I don't want. Like, I just don't.
Nah, I get a little feisty, you know me.
I know. And I mean, look at Tiffany Dawn. No, I never called Shanann a slut. Come on.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Tiffany.
You know what, Beach Bum? She thought that they were getting divorced. Chris changed his work schedule to week on, week off so he could have the girls. He was looking at apartments with her, not with Nicole, but they were looking at apartments. He was discussing he wanted a 2-bedroom for the girls. They discussed bunk beds. I mean, this isn't a girl who thought he was just going to keep his marriage and she was going to be separate. She can't get back on Zoom. She's saying the passcode's incorrect.
What? Andrea. Thanks, Dre. That was next.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so what's the... Hold on, I got to send her the meeting number again.
If you need that, let me know. I got it.
No, I got it. Hang on.
And just so everybody's clear, Jay's not defending Ted Bundy. So I saw that comment just fly by. Yeah, they think you're one or two people think you're defending Ted Bundy.
Why? Because I said his name?
Yeah, that's how sly people are these days. Like, that's the thing. We look at it from an open mindset. This is a case. This isn't who's your favorite band. You know what I mean? Like, this is a homicide case. There's going to be the good, bad, and the ugly. Yes, it's trivial. There's bad things with it. There's good things with it. There's sad things with it. It's how you interpret it. Jay's not a person to interpret it with soft little feather eyeballs and to be like, oh, that's so horrible what happened. I'm just going to blind myself to the reality of there is. No, that's not how she is. Sorry.
No. I mean, it's I'm not going to give you fluff. We're going to give you what's out there. And this is what's out there right now. So, but obviously, you know what? I'm not going to keep defending it because 1,000 people don't lie.
Exactly.
But if you disrespect my guest, you will be hidden from the channel. Like, no, mods, don't even time them out. Don't bother.
There you go. Oh, hey, Jason. Oh, girl, Jason's in chat.
Hi, Jason.
Remember Jason? Oh. He's a sweetheart. Girl, can you hear my computer making a clicking noise? Like a
No, I can't.
We got some heavy winds and there's like this pressure on our wall and it's making my computer be like, so I keep muting myself. It's so loud.
No, I can't hear it. Hang on. I'm
okay.
Working this out with her. Sorry, guys. I don't know why she can't get in. Did you have to put in like a participant ID?
No, I just put in the
meeting ID and then the password, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know Zoom changed some things, but I thought I had it all good when she was here before.
I was able to get in, but Zoom's kind of gotten a little funny.
I could start a whole new Zoom meeting. All right, let me do that. We'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, new Zoom started. Sorry, you guys. Hopefully she won't be robotic when she gets back. All right. Let's see if they can rejoin.
Girl, are we live?
Yep, we are live.
Are we in here?
Yep.
Is it working?
Yep.
Okay.
No, she's on a PC. She's not on her phone.
Wait, is she on a Lenovo like I am?
No, I don't think so.
I was going to say, if it's a Lenovo, it may not work.
You know, chat, I have it slowed down to 45 seconds. It's still too fast. Because I'm going to be timing out people that aren't supposed to be timed out. Now that should work. I mean...
I think everything's a go now. Hopefully Zoom is going.
Leia, please, no more. No, all I see, we dropped from 1,000. Now we have 674.
See, my phone is hold on. Let me back out. My phone is showing 1,000. It never updates for me. I'm still showing 1,000. That's interesting. Yeah, see, Rosebud said the same thing. Mine's showing 1K too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I see 1,000. Rourke is sketchy, Riley. I agree, girl.
Did you know, this is just a little tidbit that I found out while we're waiting for Kim to come back. Did you know that D.A. Rourke's wife is a rape victim and that he prosecuted her case and that's how they met?
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Doesn't that sound like but doesn't that sound like a conflict of interest to you?
Yeah, that's a conflict. That's horrible.
Yeah. All right. Hey,
That's
Kim,
horrible.
are you back?
Hey, Kim. Can you hear us?
She connecting to
Oh, wait,
audio?
we're connecting.
You got to connect to audio, girlfriend. She did not connect to audio, it says. You got to connect to your audio. What do you click on a computer?
Mine pops up automatically on the Lenovo.
Yeah, mine does too.
Wait, it pops up for you too on the Mac? To say to connect to computer?
No, mine does it automatically.
Oh.
That's what I meant.
I have to
Lorraine,
click on mine.
she said, Chris Watts said Shanann was straddling Cece, choking her, yet Autopsy said she was smothered. No, he didn't say that. If you watched Kim's video, what he
Yeah, that's a conflict. That's horrible.
Okay, someone needs to mute.
Wait, are you there?
Yeah,
Okay.
mute.
I'm having to call in because
Oh my
I don't know
god.
what's going on.
Hey, girl.
Okay, so what was I saying? Hold on. I want to.
to.
We lost her again. Unbelievable.
No, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think we can.
Hello?
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, cool.
Hello?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay, so I was finishing my sentence. What was I saying?
The autopsy with the choking and straddling.
Oh, yeah. Because he didn't say that he saw her choking Cece. He said he came in from the back and he couldn't see where her hands were. So if you watched Kim's video, you would have seen that. Okay. Welcome back, Kim.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I don't know why it's saying I can't get back in on the computer. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I
think everyone on my side, on my channel, is like not going to be able to hear this now. I don't know what's going on.
No, they'll be able to hear it because you're coming through my audio, so they'll be able to hear you.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
They should be anyways. Okay. So where did we leave off when...
I think we were talking about... I think we were talking about Chris not knowing anything. I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think we kind of were because we kind of talked about we were reading chat while you were gone.
Okay.
So where do we want to pick up from? Him pleading out.
And here's the biggest thing. I think people, I understand why people are so angry, why they're so upset, why everything has been so crazy, because they literally have been lied to from the beginning. And I get it, because now we have the Wisconsin debacle, all that craziness to go through. But like, I just wish people could honestly rewind and go back to the beginning, because if they understood, I just released a video. I did a Tammy Lee video a couple days ago. And then just before I came on to your live, I did another one, because I think it's important for people to understand why this case went the direction it did. Tammy Lee did a interview with Oxygen and did like a little show with them. And the article that went with it was December 7th, 2019. And she said that she was doing a deep dive in Shanann's Facebook while she was still missing. And she felt emotionally connected to Shanann. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that made so much sense to me, why everything then was going the way it did, why it went the way that it did. And so I was like reading more. And she said when she was sitting in the interrogation room with Chris, she became outraged by talking to him.
She said outraged?
Because she felt, yes. And she said she felt protective of Shanann. And I was all of a sudden, like, everything made sense. I'm like, oh my gosh. Number one, that is literally against like his constitutional right for like a fair process. But then it made sense why she was so mad when she was like, you want me to go out there and blame Shanann or say Shanann did this? And then immediately goes out to the media and says, Chris confessed to everything. So that's going to be part of his thing coming up, going back into court, is we finally understood like why this had happened, because we didn't even understand why it happened the way it was happening. Like, what was going on?
It's kind of inappropriate for her to be emotionally invested because she relates with one of the players in the case. right?
100%.
So
I mean, that is absolutely.
she's being told a story, and then she's emotionally connected with a person that Chris is saying did something that she just can't wrap her brain around, because it would be like her doing it, because she related
100%.
to her on that level. Like, I'm a strong person like that too, she said.
Well, she said that in the article. She said, you know, she's Italian, I'm Italian, she's sassy, she, you know, and she goes on to explain Shanann. And I was like, oh my gosh, because that is 100% a conflict of interest for sure.
I mean, she can feel any way she wants, but to be outspoken and to like tell that on a national program is,
I think, is crazy.
Kind of crazy, yeah. I mean, especially after your video where you showed that girl had screenshotted her post, and she messaged under like her like alt on Facebook and said, "Hey, I'm Tammy Sue. You know, shared my post today. Can you reach out to me? Blah, blah, blah." She was really trying to get that taken away.
Yes. Let's explain that. So the day after Chris was arrested and they released to the world that Chris confessed to killing his whole family, her husband goes on, and I have it on my channel. Her husband goes on and makes a post talking about how she sits across the table from evil people all day long and all this stuff. And then he closes his post with basically a picture of an in memory of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. And then she replies and talks about it. Basically, it took everything to get this closed, like it was over. And then she goes on and on and on and on and on. And then about Shanann. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it is. But now that we can look back and see, because we've been like, what is going on? Well, then you bring in the Wisconsin situation that happened. And she says, I had to go there and make sure I heard him say that he did everything and Shanann did nothing. And that's what it was. It was another interrogation. And I kind of made a joke about it, about like, they had said that in the beginning that they put in Chris's mind that Shanann did everything, or that Shanann did this, and Chris went with it, and which is a lie. And then we go to Wisconsin, and that's all that audio is her saying stuff. And at the beginning, I broke this down in the video on my channel. In the beginning, they're asking him questions, and he doesn't want to talk. And in prison, you don't have any rights. So Chris does not know that he can leave. I mean, he is there to talk to him. And they're asking him questions, and he's like, And then they get to a point, and he breaks, and he gets emotional. And he says, I don't want to talk about it. Those are my girls. Those are my girls. And then they just lay in harder on him and harder on him. And like, come on, Chris, we need more details. We need this. We need this. And they're asking him, is it this or this? Did you see this or this? Did you see this or this? And Chris just said, like, I just had no choice but to give them information. And Chris had no idea that was going to be released. They lied to him. And when they kept pressuring him, like, you only have this, you have to tell us. We're not leaving until this happens. I remember a specific detail when they're asking about like her bloodshot eyes. And I put a video about that too, where in the beginning, you know, they said, did she have bloodshot eyes? Did you see anything with bloodshot eyes? And he said, And then later in the interrogation, as he was talking about covering up the dirt and what with Shanann, he was like, and that's when I saw her bloodshot eyes. And I showed in the autopsy that she had no bloodshot eyes. And I'm like, you guys, like, she went there and did exactly that. She had to put all this information into his mind. And she never did that in the beginning. See, people don't realize she never put, she could say that, you know, she put in his mind that Shanann did it. But you mean in 6 minutes, Chris was able to completely and forensically put a whole scene together, very complicated as far as when you heard the knock downstairs, the camera, the angles of the bodies, everything. I mean, that is literally impossible. If you go to my channel and look at the reenactment, there's no way he would have known internally what their injuries were and why it was so important. He described certain positions, what internally and forensically that would do to them. He had no idea. Tammy Lee just couldn't stomach it. And she was bent on getting him, like, it on him. And they never opened his house back up to a crime scene. I mean, the whole crime scene was ruined. I mean, the dirt that was in the grave with Shanann, it got moldy in the locker. They just throw it away. I mean, you want to know what could have been in that? Fibers, hairs, you name it. The sheet out in the field, they originally took a picture of it with the drone and then moved it closer to a bush. Again, Shanann was wrapped in that. There's so many things that could have been in that thing. You could see him on the drone up at the hatch. They made this big thing like it was so dangerous. You see these two guys walking up there. They open the hatch, they look in it, and they close it. But they're not taking pictures. They're not marking it. You have no idea on that hatch, you know, just things that they might have needed forensically for this case. When they first went into Chris's house.
Wait, I want to stop you at the hatches for a second. Okay, because I heard there was a video that was put out about those hatches where they said that Chris had to have been wearing PPE when he opened those, because if you open them and you breathe in those fumes, you will die. So I want you to clear that up.
No. Yeah, absolutely false. Like I said, you can go Google on YouTube, search the drone video, and you see the two guys. One, I think, has a hard hat on, and the guy's a detective, and he opens it. He's at the second, when you walk up the stairs, he goes to the second tank, is what you see him at. And he opens the hatch, they look in, and they close the hatch, and they start walking away. And I'm like, oh, because I thought the same thing. Like, isn't that interesting? Because we were all told exactly that it was so dangerous and so, you know, so horrible or whatever. And I was like,
and while we're on that topic of
the story,
while we're on that topic of the hatches, we all know that those were 8 inches wide, and that the widest point of the girls was what, 9 inches?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Like 9.5 inches, I think.
So, I mean, that would be your shoulders. That would be the girls' shoulders would be their widest area. Right. So, I mean, we all know that you can bend. I mean, I'm not trying to be graphic.
Yeah, if you fold it.
Yeah, but I mean, I hate thinking about this, but
I know.
Was it foot first, or do you think foot first or head first?
Feet first.
Feet first. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I think they could tell by the way there was a scratch on Bella's bum that they could tell.
Gotcha.
That she had gone in feet first as well. And I think that's another thing that was so disheartening is the information that was being released. Like Dr. Phil during Sweeps Week did a show, and he explained these horrific injuries on the girls that was completely false. And I was like, you know, I just realized that the prosecution went on a very horrific, they sent all this stuff out in these press packets that was completely false. Like even those pictures of Chris side by side from the gas station. One was Chris, one was some random guy. I feel bad for him because that orange shirt has been shown around the world. Not the same person. The DA knew that. They were the ones that had those images, and they had Chris's GPS, and they released it and with the narrative that Chris was eating breakfast at a gas station after he murdered his whole family. And I'm like, when you have a prosecution who is putting out such horrible information that's clearly false, you have to just ask, what are they covering up? What are they trying to hide? What agenda are they trying to sell us? And I'll tell you what, I've learned so much about the media because I've talked about every media outlet there is out there. And every time we would talk to them about, you know, the truth, about different things that were happening, they would just say, we can't run that story. Our producers won't allow it because they already have their storyline. And I'm like, what? I mean, that was scary. And when people were releasing all these horrible things, you know, like the Amanda and Trent thing, we had proof. Am I what? I have no idea. When they had, what was I saying, Jay? Tell me what I just said. I'm sorry.
You said Amanda and Trent. The media was talking about Amanda and Trent.
Yeah. I mean, those guys were discredited from the beginning. They knew. I mean, they interviewed them, they investigated, and then it was done. But they still were releasing it in their press packets. And to me, I mean, I said this before, like, I think Martha Stewart went to prison because she lied to the police. I don't think she went for a crime. And I'm like, why aren't these people being arrested? When the neighbor, Nate, lied, why wasn't he arrested? That's interfering with an investigation. I mean, there's so many things. I'm like, why were they putting such horrible information out there? And like I said, when I got to Tammy's stuff, I was like, that makes sense. I mean, they just had it out. She says they had it out for Chris from the beginning. And that was the first thing she said when she went to Wisconsin. The first thing she said to Chris was, the minute I very first saw your face, I knew you were guilty. She never had any interest on even listening to him. She had no interest on anything. Like, it was just that she connected to Shanann, and that was it. Game over.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to the Trent Amanda thing and some of the witnesses.
Okay.
I want to talk specifically about Nicole Atkinson. And in your last video, you had stated that, I don't know if it was your last video, but in one of them, you stated that she had told some lies in the beginning. Can we talk about that, like, specifically?
Absolutely. I mean, her whole friend group knew that they were struggling. I mean, Amanda and Nick Thayer had said, that they were getting separated a week earlier. Shanann told her they were getting separated. Everyone, I mean, look at the text messages now that they've been released.
Mm-hmm.
You see the truth of what was going on. And when they released the 911 call, they like scrubbed or scrambled the part where it says, they were having issues. And when the police first got there, she was like, oh yeah, Chris is saying they're separating, but Shanann doesn't know that. They're just having problems. And I'm like, like I said, because you can see all the text messages now of what was happening. And everyone started selling this story. I mean, you have to think, you guys, by every account ever, Chris was the perfect husband, the perfect father. I mean, he was just an all-around amazing guy. And yet, in that moment, every person was against Chris. Why? Like, why was that happening? Why was this very angry attitude towards Chris instantly what happened, And even her mother, you could hear her mother on the phone, angry and completely against Chris. And we're like, whoa. And then even with the neighbor, Chris says he's talked to the neighbor twice, and he said Shanann has never spoke to him. Yet he's got this huge story that he's telling. And I'm like, well, Nicole clearly talked to him first, because as the police are going through this whole process, they realize that Nicole had literally talked to every person, even the gas station girl. When the police went to go interview the gas station girl, Nicole Atkinson had already talked to them. And it was like, why was this narrative being pushed that Chris was this horrible person? Nate saying he's heard them screaming before. Are you kidding me? I mean, there's all these things that were like really big red flags of like, man, people are trying really, really hard, to sell the story that Chris was someone they should look at. I mean,
yeah. Hey, there's something I'm confused about that crazy. I'm wondering if you can clear up for me. So Shanann's mom, Sandy, said that on Dr. Phil that she didn't know there was any problems going on when Shanann was in North Carolina, that she thought they were happy.
Right.
I think it was Dr. Phil. I'm pretty sure it was. Don't quote me on that, but it was some interview she did. But they said, "Did you know anything was going on?" No, I had no idea. I thought they were the perfect couple, I think is what she said. So, but then we fast forward to her being on the phone with NA that morning.
Right.
And she's on speaker, and she tells her, "Check the knives." So not only that, but she woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and didn't she make a phone call? Or was that the following day? Was that before?
No, she made a phone call that morning, like at 8:00, to see if Shanann had been to the school to drop the kids off. And I'm like,
okay,
well, isn't that interesting? Why does her mom do that? And that is right. I mean, her mom from the beginning, number one, I mean, there's that video that the girls that worked with her mother were like, oh no, there was a separation. Sandy would talk to us about it.
Correct.
Okay.
I remember that too. That hairdresser, the hairdresser. So,
well, and then
but what's the big cover up about?
Being out there.
But what's the big cover up about? That's what I guess I don't understand. Like,
Shanann.
but why go to these lengths? Like, people are human. Like, I don't know. It's just so crazy to me. All of these little things that are covered up that really, it doesn't really matter. If, be honest about it. If she was there and she was distraught, I mean, say that. I don't get it.
And that was the thing on her 911 call, is that, I mean, and even at the house, she mentioned, well, she was distraught. Like, that's exactly it. She was distraught. We had never seen her like this before. And see, what people don't understand, a big part of the story that they were selling from the very beginning was that Chris had a girlfriend that no one knew about, and that he was going to kill his whole family to be with her. And even Nicole Kessinger rejected that story to the detective. And what's even more important is that Chris had told his family that's what was happening. He even changed his work schedule to every 6 days rotation, like 6 or 7 days on, 6 or 7 days off, to accommodate a 50-50 schedule. When they were there in North Carolina, they basically had this big blow up at the beach, and Chris called his parents and told them what was going on and said, I finally see the light. We're getting separated. Like, this is what's going on. And then he was allowed by Shanann to go over there for 1 day without the kids, because Shanann was not going to allow that. And so as he spent the day with his family, I mean, you have to think about that. Shanann was already, and the story even with her being out there, so she came out to the Watts house for 3 days originally and was there. And on the third day, it was a Monday, Shanann got very upset because Cindy was at the hair salon, and she got really mad at Cindy and said, you've left me home with the kids all day. And so Cindy finally came home, and she got upset and she left. And then the next week, Shanann came back for 3 more days. But the first 3 days, Cindy took her shopping and spent almost $400 on groceries for her and the girls. So they had all the appropriate things at the house. So they were there for 3 days. They go home. They come back the next weekend for another 3 days. And it wasn't until the next Monday, again on the third day of being there, that the ice cream thing happened. And you have to realize, like, that's why Cindy was so concerned, because Shanann, like really got upset. I mean, I think they counted like over 20 posts on social media in the group on her Facebook. Like, she really was, I mean, she told Cindy she was trying to kill her girls. And I mean, that's crazy.
Well, not only that, we saw the Facebook post too that continued on from that moment. But I want to go back to the proof that they were separating. Okay, because someone in chat said no, there's no proof that they were separating. You brought up the schedule change. Can you talk about the other proof?
Yeah. So he told his family that, like, he was looking for an apartment. And here's a nice thing. We have all these phone calls recorded with the media from the beginning. So this isn't something that they can say, oh, you heard that in Chris's confession or in the tape, and now you guys say that. Absolutely not. We have every phone call with the media recorded, and we've told this from the beginning. Chrissy was looking for an apartment, a 2-bedroom, bunk beds for the kids. You know, he had already figured out spousal support and child support. He had, he was doing all these things, getting ready to separate. And Shanann even called the real estate agent to put the house on the market. And that was another thing that Nicole said. Chris said today that he's putting the house on the market. Well, Shanann did. And they found out, but they never corrected the narrative. They made it seem like Chris did it. Well, no, they did it a few days earlier. Shanann reached out to Ann, their real estate agent, to do that. And Chris kept telling Cindy that she's just not listening. She's not getting it. She's not, and that's what happened that morning is Chris was like, no, I want to pursue the separation, And so he was putting all these things in place. Now, remember the letter that came out, the letter that was so big, Cindy was already so worried about this behavior that she was seeing at Shanann. And then the fact that she was so mean about Chris coming over for one day and over my dead body, those kids will go back to that house, whatever, in the text out there that she said to Chris. And she said, Chris, can you please sit down? Can you please? They were terrified for Chris. They were worried because they were seeing this emotional aggression and all these things that were happening. And they sat Chris down and made him write this letter and said, Cindy's like, we're worried about you. She is not in a good place. And so they wrote the letter that everyone has seen and read, and he sealed it in an envelope and left it at the house. And I mean, now we see, even through her text messages, like she was really, really in a bad place.
Did he feel like she was in a bad place as well?
I mean, here's the thing with Chris, is he's always like, it's okay, it's fine. No one ever, I mean, he's used to Shanann and how she is. He's seen her before like that. And he was just like, it'll be fine. Like no one thinks that this could ever happen, Mm-hmm. And so he was like, don't worry. They even wanted to come home with them. And then when Chris came home, Ronnie they were texting him through those few days of like, sleep with one eye open, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Because they were just concerned and they wanted everyone safe. This wasn't about them being mad at Shanann. They were just concerned for everyone's safety. Like they never wanted this for her either. I mean, I know that Cindy felt, happy that maybe this was going to be, the separation is going to be happening, because it just seemed like they just weren't good. Like Chris just was getting to the point that he wanted different things and wanted to be able to interact in his own life and have control over things he wanted to do with the girls. And he wanted to take them to the races and take them camping and all these things. And he wasn't able to do that with her. And so he just wanted to separate and go his own way, So, I mean, it's sad. The whole thing is sad. And I've heard people say, like, you've never liked Shanann from the beginning. No, it wasn't that. I don't, my videos, I don't bash her. It's not about that.
Well, I said that when you hopped off and came back on, I said that I haven't heard you say anything bad about her personally at all.
Yeah, no, I don't. I have nothing bad to say about her, because here's my thought. I get the situation. I get why people in this whole case, everyone watching, I understand why people are upset. They have a right to be. I mean, we're upset. And even, my video, my reenactment does show what Chris said.
Yes,
does that mean
it does.
I don't like Shanann or I hate her? No, absolutely
right.
not. I don't. I feel bad if any woman is to the point that she's that emotional and that was to happen. I mean, it's tragic. Everything is tragic. But what I do say is, if, I put forensically together what Chris said, and it matches the evidence, not only externally, but internally. And nobody has ever been able to do that. Not the DA, not the investigator, not anybody. And it took me 2 years to get all of it together, and we have it. And we've had multiple forensic people. I mean, everyone looking at this from every angle. And they're like, yeah, like, yep, it matches. And so that's all we have right now. And so for me, I guess I have to look at it like this. If there's any possibility that Chris was railroaded, which clearly from Tammy's discussion, it looks like that. It's felt like that. Everyone said nothing makes sense. Well, then if you turn it around and forget everything that happened afterwards, and you look at the two side by side, and by all accounts, Chris was getting ready to, get separated. His girlfriend, they knew that they were going to take it slower and that they'd figure that out. I mean, he changed his work schedule. They were looking for an apartment. And then you look at Shanann, who was obviously pregnant, very emotional. That would be horrible for her to lose her family. And you weigh that, and it's not that it's like one's better than the other, but the person in that situation more likely, I think, to, be the point to do that, like what Chris described. I just see that for me, it just aligns up. And if you just turn that, it's like, that makes more sense. And the evidence makes sense. And so it's, like I said, it's not that I'm bashing Shanann. It's not that. It has nothing to do with that. Like, honestly, I feel bad for her family. I feel bad for her. It's not a win or lose. Like, no one's better than the other. It's not about that. For me, it's just about, following the evidence and following Chris's right to have a due process. To be honest, it's his constitutional right. And if you look at the law side of that, any attorney will say, I don't care if my client is guiltier than anything, they still have a constitutional right to have due process, to have a fair trial, to not have all these obstacles that Chris had to go through. And so I look at that aspect, and that's why I'm passionate about this case and pursuing this, is because of all these other things. It's not just about who's right, who's wrong, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I fully agree. I agree. And can I ask, I don't want to I know I'm just this little person that comes in on the side, but I've seen a lot of comments, and I kind of feel the same way. Nicole Kessinger.
Yeah, I want to ask the comment someone super chatted. Southern California cat lady.
Yeah.
She said, what are your thoughts on NK? She said, hello, Kim. What are your thoughts on NK? Do you believe others could be involved? Thank you. Go ahead, Dre, and go on, piggyback on that.
That's me, Kim. I have to ask. Jay can tell you, man, I've been sitting back on these sidelines like, wait a minute. Kessinger feels she's a hard one for me. Like I think a lot of people here in this chat, not everyone, but some do feel that she might be involved. I personally do, but I'm not trying to sway a narrative, but some of us sit there and think she looks sketch.
No, that's a great question. That is a great question. And I've been asked that so many times. I've actually talked to Chris about that myself. And let me say this before I get into her, I think that for a lot of people, having these other theories and these other stories really helps them from not having to honestly narrow into the evidence we do have. Because believe it or not, there's a lot of evidence there. And people say there's no evidence. Well, there is. And I think that some people, like Tammy Lee, she related with Shanann. And so it was impossible for her to see this case any other way, because it's like, well, if Shanann did that and I relate to her, then that might say something bad about me. Right? And I think that people live in these theory worlds because they're really afraid that after all this time, they might have been lied to. And if they've been lied to and they believe Shanann was innocent or Chris is this bad guy, then what does that say about me? Was I that dumb to be sold this? Whatever it is. Or they just can't see a mom like that doing that to her kids. Well, have you looked at the news? Because there's like 50 moms, like every other day they're doing this to their kids. But I think it's a safe place for people to emotionally sit. Yeah. And they get into this cause. They get into this they get in this like that mob mentality, and it can be good or bad, but they get in that where it's like, we want to, join together and have this crusade. And I believe that they feel they're doing it with the best intentions. I do believe that. I don't think that they're doing this to be hateful and mean. I think they really believe what they believe, and that's okay. But I think they live in those theories to protect themselves from really having to narrow that down. So when it comes to Nicole Kessinger, here's what I'll say too, is if there was one, because the prosecution literally had nothing. I mean, on that Oxygen channel, they said, one of the experts that was on there said, after speaking with the DA, like they weren't even sure on their theory, you know? And I was like, well, that tells you something. So I believe if Nicole Kessinger had anything to do with this, I'm talking even the littlest thing. And that girl ran to that police station and it was like bothering these guys. Like she was constantly like, one other thing and one more thing. I figured this out. And one more thing. And I'm like, that's not somebody who, and I remember Nicole Atkinson being like, am I going to get arrested if I go to the police station? And here you have Nicole Kessinger, like every 5 minutes, like calling the police for another thing. And if they could have hung her up for something, I believe they would have 100%. And Chris said she wasn't involved. And then I also look at the evidence, okay, because I'm an evidence person. Besides the fact that no charges were brought against her. So when you think about going back to court, that's the nice thing is you get to flick all those things away, because if there was no charge there and no nothing, we don't have to worry about that right now. But I will go over evidence with you guys to hopefully help you understand what that would look like. Number one, if she had done something, I don't think some of the things that she has said would be said. Like she mentions that, well, number one, she corroborates Chris's story as far as, you know, that was the nice thing was when her stuff got released, all of a sudden the media was like, oh, shoot, what the Watts just told us like 2 months ago literally is the truth. Because Nicole talked about that week getting an apartment, you know, helping him with looking at bunk beds and narrowing it down from a 3-bedroom to a 2-bedroom for Chris's budget. And so she really just basically what the Watts said was that. Now, remember, the Watts were never interviewed by the police. They were never questioned. So they never got the chance to tell their story. And that's why it's wonderful that we recorded every conversation because we have it before anything came out. So they can't say that we saw it later. But she said something to the police about Chris made a comment about the girl's bed smelling. And she was like, I thought that was odd because their house is clean. It's spotless. There's no reason for it to smell. Clearly, after the fact, if you look at Chris's original confession, it would make sense why there would be a scent in that bedroom the next day. So stuff like that. They usually would text, you know, in the morning or have conversations or whatever, and she wasn't hearing from him. And I think she texted him something like, prove where you're at, you know? And so Chris did because he just wasn't responding quite the same way as he normally would. But there is no evidence that she was there. Everyone says, I think she was in the house. Well, I mean, I would think that there's 2 people doing a crime, like they would have made the bed, things would have been, I don't know, something different. But she just was so eager to help the police. And Chris's defense team, he actually wanted to reach out to her. They tried like 5 times to reach out to her to make sure she was okay because he felt so bad. You know, didn't want her to be involved in this either. And she was actually recognized in the very beginning as a victim. In her videos, you can hear them talking about her name change, getting her counseling. So, and she was very like, I know there's one point where they're talking about having to bring, I think it was Jim being involved in it. And they're like, well, if we can't get this off of your phone, then we will have to. So you can have everything on my phone. Like you can take it, you can keep it. So I get that she deleted some stuff and it looked kind of sketch or whatever, but she also didn't know that, you know, the end result was end result. So for everything that we do know, she wasn't involved. Chris doesn't say she was involved.
I fully agree. I think the thing that's hard for me to interpret from like an outsider's perspective is like, and I mean, yeah, deleting shit is bad. That looks really bad. But I think the other thing that was really hard for me is like, I put myself in her shoes. I'm the type of person where I try to empathize with someone like, okay, let me put myself in someone else's shoes. Like if I was in that predicament, how would I handle it? You know what I mean? Like that's hard for me, but I would never have my father in on an interview. And at the same token, she didn't come forward fully. If you look at the discovery, I can't remember what index it is. It's like 500 to like 517 or 527. Tony Husky actually tipped the police right before Chris gave that polygraph test about their relationship. So that's where I kind of built my whole like thought process. Like, man, if it was me and I'm sitting there looking at this woman and these kids missing, I'd have came forward.
Right.
You know, that's
Right.
a hard one for me. It's always been hard for me.
Well, and here's the thing too that I think. I mean, this is the thing that I know that Chris has said. They had this conversation about, you know, Nicole saying, go out to North Carolina, figure things out, and that kind of scenario was going on. Chris did want to make it not about her. I know that for a fact. He did not want it to be like, I'm leaving this situation for her. Now, you guys have to remember, I mean, I always say this. It is so easy to look at the situation and say, well, if it was me, I would do this. If it was me, I would do this. You have a young girl, she's 30 years old, who has a boyfriend, who's married, who now is all over the news that she's missing. I mean, and they had a very intimate relationship. I know that she was very scared of that being put out there.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Now, I would be, for me, I didn't think it was weird that her dad was there. I mean, I would think that her dad was there to be like, yo, what is going on? Like, what is happening? I don't think that's bad. I mean, it's like Chris having Ronnie there. I mean, I think that you have a guy you're dating whose family is missing and on the news. Like that's bigger than just like, you know, I was riding a bike and I fell over. I got to go talk to somebody, you know, like this is a big deal. So I didn't think it was weird he was there. I thought actually, I mean,
I'm going to be honest with you, Kim. I see your point. I think it's very weird. Like, especially with like, well, we didn't know at the time it was a homicide case, but,
right.
And I don't want to sound like an asshole, but to me, I find it very strange. Like, I've been in some shit before and my dad's like military, you know what I mean? So it's like, fuck, I don't want my dad. You know what I mean? Like, oh God, no. You know what I mean?
Right.
I couldn't share shit like that with my dad, you know? Like,
but her dad didn't stop her. Like, that's the thing. It's like her dad, as she was talking, I think it'd be different if like her dad was like, don't, you know, just kind of interfering a lot. But I didn't really feel that from him. So I was kind of shocked that she disclosed some things that she did when he was around. I was like, okay, weird. But I mean, I don't think that, I mean, that was their, I don't know their relationship. I don't know how close she is to her dad. Some people are very close. Some people aren't. So I can't judge that because to me, he's just there. His daughter is going there. Maybe she was nervous. Maybe she was concerned. I don't know. But I mean, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I'll just say, because I've seen it before, I know everyone has this concern with her. I really do think if the DA, knowing that they only had this theory, and you have to remember too, is when the police told her the theory, she rejected it. She was like, what? No. She goes, that doesn't make sense. Like, I know he's married. I know he has kids. Like, we've been planning this apartment and the bunk beds. I mean, the places that she was looking at, she was like, the first one had a jungle gym and like a pool for the kids. Like, she goes, what is he going to do? Just say that they're gone and I'll just like, okay, and never ask about them? She was like, that's not possible, you know? And that's what was so sad because she was lied to too. She was told that Chris confessed to everything. And she was like, why? I don't understand. Like, why? Like, he never had to do that. Like, and so for me, if I'm guilty, you know, I feel like her response to that was like, when she rejected it, like, hey, she'd probably be like, yeah, he probably did. You know, I don't know how, but I wouldn't be saying no and rejecting it automatically. She was like, there's no way. I would just not be okay with him saying that his wife and kids are no longer in his life and he'll never have contact. And she goes, he loved his girls. They were everything. Like, that didn't make sense to her. So that, to me, as an outsider, not looking at the evidence of it, just as that, I was like, well, I don't know. But
I want to interject here, Kim. There's a comment in chat I wanted to read to you. The name is Bar13TX, and he says, does Kim know NK's dad was the one rushing the process, getting him to confess? I've heard a lot of things about NK's dad being a Mason, being a Freemason, and also Rourke being a Mason. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if her dad had those connections. I didn't know if you knew that. I have no idea.
I think that like I said, you guys, I don't go on theory or speculation. I look at what I know. Tammy Lee, the only thing that I can show and I can prove is that Tammy Lee 100% had already bonded with Shanann, said that she was outraged and felt disgusted as she was interrogating Chris. And then when Chris talked to his dad, which she says an interrogation technique that it would work, well, then he did say what he told Ronnie. And she didn't like it. And she told him, like, you want me to go out there? And then she immediately tells the press all of this, and they never correct it. And she's the lead investigator. I mean, there's rules like this, like 3.6 and 3.8 of the rules of Colorado. Like, you can't do that. You can't go release these things because it goes against his right to a fair process, a fair trial. So those rules are broken. And not only that, then her husband goes on and writes, you guys need to go look at that post. You literally need to watch my last video. And the one that says Tammy, look at what her husband says. There's like 3 or 4 like page texts, whatever. And then she replies and it's close to her. So, I mean, I don't believe her dad was rushing it. I believe Tammy was, because she was in charge of the investigation, and everything we know now that it's all come out and it's all been released, that lines up with why, since she was running the show, why everything happened the way it happened. I mean, you guys have to realize they weren't even processing all these different things. There's a thing called the Brady Law, where if they process information and evidence comes up that could actually be in Chris's favor, they have to turn it over. And so everyone was like, well, they didn't process a lot of DNA. And I'm like, yeah, they didn't. And I don't know if they were just scared, because obviously at some point they're going to start seeing Shanann's text coming in where she says when she was in North Carolina, I'm trying to fight him. He won't fight back. I'm trying to do this and he won't do this. She mentions to one of her friends that she threatened Chris with an abortion and Chris said no. I mean, you have all these things where she's being this aggressive person to Chris, and she keeps saying he won't do it.
Wait a minute. She threatened him with abortion?
Yeah, she told one of her friends that she was trying to get him to talk about something, and she said, I even threatened him like that I'd go get an abortion.
And I didn't see that.
Tells her, Chris tells her in the text, like, no, I'll make things work. So, yeah. I mean, so you look at those behaviors, like, if you want to go out down the route that, like, Chris premeditated this, well, then if that was true, I mean, that wasn't out. He could have said, yes, like, let's have an abortion then. Let's get rid of the baby. Like, he could have easily said that. And obviously he didn't. He was like, no, we'll make it work.
Okay, well, let me go back to NK, though. Because in the interview with her dad did tell the investigator to stop leading. So he did interject in their interview. He wasn't just silent. And he kind of argued. He's like, you're leading her. I mean. Well,
yeah, but what I'm saying is he wasn't saying, like, Nicole, don't disclose this, Nicole.
Right.
I think that at some point, I know they did turn over a message that they thought looked bad that she had with her friend. You know, they were talking about something about the kids. And she was like, no, I mean, I never talked to Chris about the kids. Like, he loved the kids and I thought it was cute. So I mean, like I said, I
personally don't think she was crazy about the kids. I don't think she did anything, but I don't think she was. I think she was still on the fence. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's cute. He's a dad. It's kind of like, we're not going to live together. So, but another thing about her, the ping of her phone in Frederick, the morning of August the 13th.
Yes.
Okay, so that has been discussed a gazillion times. We're told that she didn't clock into work that day, but she clocked out on the 13th. And what were the communications between her and Chris after that ping in Frederick? Do we know?
So I know that they had talked, and they had their long conversation, which was an intimate conversation, part of it. A lot of it was talking to about Shanann coming home, what it's going to look like, because Chris already told her that things are a little bit different right now because, for their whole relationship, Shanann was gone. And so he was able to be there all the time and do all these different things. And they'd get together before work sometimes and after work. And so that morning, Now, she did explain that not always would he text her in the morning, not always would they, but I mean, and go back to her for a second in the police station. Like, I don't know about you, but I also, and not out of guilt, but when you know your intimate relationship and how it's been, and they know they're going to go in and get some of those things, like that's embarrassing for sure. So I can see that hesitation from her. I wanted to just give that as a side note, but I mean, I don't know. That would be awkward. But that morning, I mean, I don't know why that's out there. Chris doesn't know why it's out there. I know that she had, they'd been sharing lyrics back and forth. And see, that's the thing. The police never released her text messages. Why? Put them out there. And I'll tell you why I don't think that they did. Because it corroborated what Chris said. And I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Like, if you look at what Chris's story was and what her friend was saying was not true, then you look at her story and you talk to the watch. I mean, theirs match, theirs line up, and they are like, here's information, take it. I mean, the defense wouldn't even take the letter. They're like, no, just keep it here.
You know,
they were just, at that point, arguing.
I just want to say, as I'm listening to you and I'm reading this chat, if you were simply looking for someone to pin this on because you are a fangirl of Chris, as it's been said in chat, why wouldn't you jump on the NK theory? Why would you sit here and say, no, I don't think she was involved?
Yeah.
If you were looking for something to blame or someone to blame.
Yeah. She'd be the first person for sure. Absolutely.
Right.
She'd be the easiest scapegoat. And that's why everyone keeps asking me, why aren't you against her? I'm like, well, because she had nothing to do with the case. I mean, there's nothing that shows that she had anything to do with it. And I feel bad because I really do believe that she was lied to. I mean, even the Denver Post article they put out, like they twisted that thing completely. I mean, I talked to people that were talking to her. I mean, and I was like, they just have to write a story a certain way. And I'm like, I'm sure that made her really upset because they twisted what she said, you know?
Uh-huh.
So exactly. If I was looking for someone to blame, I wouldn't be saying exactly what Chris said is true. I'd be like, oh yeah, she's probably involved. And there might be somebody else that's involved, you know?
Right,
but
right.
I never said she's involved. And
I mean, there's no reason that you would want to go after Shanann. You don't have a beef with Shanann.
Right. None. Zero.
I mean, we all know that the Watts and Shanann had their issues, obviously.
Right.
But I do want to also, I want to make note that there was a time before Bella was born that Chris didn't talk to them for 2 years.
Right.
And that was after the wedding fiasco, and all of that. But 2 years that he did, that's a long, I mean, I can't imagine like not talking to my son for 2 years. And then, you know, they get pregnant and obviously something changed and they were, you know, they reconnected. Chris called, which is awesome because they were able to be, you know, with Bella and then with Cece. But I mean, to see the lengths that this went to from the beginning, it was just, it was like a snowball going downhill, you know?
Well, and the sad thing is that Cindy says, like, literally the first time she ever had like one-on-one time with Chris was that weekend. She had never, Ronnie and them had never had, since they were married, just time with Chris, ever. And they couldn't talk a lot and they weren't able to have that relationship. And I think that was something that Chris had realized when she was gone. I mean, I think Chris realized that, wow, like I do so much for her and I support her. And he loved supporting her. You know, like that's how Chris is. But I think he realized when she was gone, and I don't think I needed to do it specifically Nicole Kessinger because he was feeling like that even when they were in San Diego. When he told Mark that there was a girl at work that he was interested in, and Mark was like, whoa, be careful, you know. But and he went on to say some stuff, whatever. But he was just like, "You be careful. She's pregnant."
You know, and one thing
dangerous.
about Mark too is Mark was very transparent in his phone call.
PC.
But he did say he was PC, but he did say, when he was honest, like when I was around Shanann, I thought she was nice. I didn't have, I never saw a problem with her, but I have heard these stories, he wasn't like, oh, she's this, she's that. He didn't act like that though. And
yeah, I mean, and I've talked to Mark, and his story is a little different, but let me tell you why. I mean, again, when these guys are first talking, it's not your first instinct to just air everyone's dirty laundry. Like, it's just not your place. And I think that's where some people, like, I even think for me as a person, like, maybe I'm like that. I know I err on the side of caution a lot on stuff. And I don't really, until I have looked at things from every angle, even like with my thing with that, my reenactment, like I had to get so far to that. And then I spent 6 months proving myself wrong, trying to find every single way to prove it wrong. This isn't about just proving it's right. I need to make sure it's right. So like with Mark, I mean, he look at Chris. I mean, he's not the kind of person that just gives all this exaggerative like information. He's not like that. And either are his friends. I mean, I don't think Mark thought that was his place to say anything, to be honest. And I mean, that's just how he is. He's not, I know that Chris wouldn't have wanted him to either, to be honest, because Chris, he doesn't like that. It's not his personality. He doesn't like people talking bad about people. I mean, that's the mother of his children. And I know that now, I mean, he went through a big process with this whole thing of being told to take responsibility. And he did. I mean, he did for real. And just that guilt of, he did feel guilty. That's why I wanted to talk to her that morning, is he felt extremely guilty. He says that in the beginning, he felt guilty and he needed to talk to her. And then as they were having the conversation, he said, she knew. He said, we were already crying so hard, I just couldn't tell her. And so he has a lot of that care, and he I think now he's getting to the point where obviously he wants to go back to being able to talk freely and doesn't have that pressure of, you've got to take responsibility. It's got to fall on your shoulders. I mean, I think he's learned just as much as we have. I mean, he had no idea about so many things in his marriage, things before his marriage, things after this case. I mean, he's learned so much. It's been eye-opening to him. And Chris is, I mean, everyone knows he's very agreeable. He's very, as people get more aggressive, he tends to recluse. I mean, he's very much so a people pleaser. And, I think it's even hard for the watch. I mean, even when I was like, Cindy, you've got to get out there and help Chris as far as, getting her statement out, trying to get a lawyer. I mean, it's not in their nature, to be honest, to talk bad about people and to do that. I mean, but Cindy wants to be able to speak about how she felt. And I don't
think that she should lie about it. I mean, if they didn't get along, why would she come out and say, oh yeah, it was great? And then she'd be called a liar and be told, no, you didn't get along with her and you did this, this, and this. So she can't win. Right. She can't win. Right. As the mother of Chris Watts, she can't win. It wouldn't matter what she did.
I don't think anyone can win. And I'll just say this. I mean, I know that even her family gets a lot of hate. And that's what's so unfortunate is it's already a tragedy. Why are we compounding that? And I get people say, well, then why are you doing this about Shanann? Well, it's not about Shanann. It's about the case. It's about, literally about evidence. It's about the justice system. It's about that. And if it happens to be that they go through this process again and he's found guilty, then he's found guilty. Or if she is found to have had a part now that the evidence has been laid out and there's more out there to look at, then that gets handled in court. And that's my problem, is that I'm just over the false information, but no one deserves all this hate about this. That's what's so sad. There's so much of that. And I mean, I'm sure it's horrific for her family to see, me doing this and me putting information out there. And I feel bad about that. And I do. I really honestly do. But I have to stick with what I feel is right. And that's why I don't try to bash her. I don't feel hateful towards her. I'm not like that. I don't like to speak like that. I just need to, release information that I feel needs to be out there and addressed. And I mean, there is no good way for all this to be out there. There's just not. There's no right way about this.
No, I get it. I mean, you've got, I don't know, you're going to have your work cut out for you, but you're just beginning. I mean, this is just the beginning. Everyone's fast forwarding to the Wisconsin confession, and we're not there yet.
Right.
We're not there yet on your channel. So I don't want to.
Oh, yeah, we're not. We're just starting.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to get ahead of what you've done. I want to wait until you've released the things that you're putting out and then discuss them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
what else can we talk about that's before that? Like, what else do you guys want to know? Is there any more questions about that? I mean,
oh my God.
Like I said, as far as Nicole Kessinger, she's off the radar. She's not. I think that everyone would have been shouting from the rooftops about that girl if they had the chance. I mean, I really do. I think that if Tammy could have had anything against her, they would have. And like I said,
you made a good point about Amber Fry, because everyone says, "Oh, why'd she Google Amber Fry?" What when we talked about it, I thought your answer was really interesting. Like, who is Amber Fry?
Well, Amber Fry was just the mistress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's critical. I think if she was anything but just the mistress, I think her searches would have been different. Now, I know that they use that to like villainize her and to put this cloud over her, which I think is terrible. But in the Scott Peterson case, she was just the mistress. That's it. That was her role. And I believe that was a 100% accurate representation for who Nicole Kessinger is. I think she was unfortunately just a mistress that, I mean, obviously I feel bad for her. I mean, by all accounts, I mean, she's never been charged with anything. She was listed as a victim. She was treated like a victim. So to me, she's a victim in this situation. I mean, I get people go, well, if she wasn't there, this wouldn't happen. But you can't say that. That is horrific to put all of that on someone. That is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that, because the two people that were a part of this they're the adults, is Chris and Shanann. So even though Shanann's passed away, her behavior, the way she was talking to Chris, the way she was telling her friends she was talking to Chris, that is not okay. I mean, that to me is abusive. And that's what I'm saying. There's so many other things in this that need to be addressed, like her friends. I mean, I'll say this. Can I just say this?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we need to look at our friendships and our relationships. If you have somebody who is pregnant or not, who is emotional, who's going through hard times, do not egg her on. Comfort her. Stop her from going home. If you know that she's distraught, and she's never been that upset before, take her home with you, or take her inside and talk to their spouse. Or, I mean, I don't know, but there things like that. You just can't have a friend who has not been eating, is dehydrated, is all these things, is very upset, going through horrific things with her in-laws. There's someone's got to stop that. To be honest, like that is real. We've got to stop with this building people up and encouraging them to be nasty and no. We need someone to step in and say, let's go for a walk. Let me take you and get a massage. Let me please stay at my house. We'll sleep in our pajamas like we're girls. Like, let's just decompress. Let's just get to a place where you're okay.
Well, most girlfriends pump up each other like, oh, screw that son of a bitch. Dre, you are really super quiet. Like, I can hear you, but you're very, very faint. I don't know what happened to your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Barely.
Barely.
Can you hear me now?
No, it's really, really low.
I can barely hear
I
her
know,
now.
me too.
Can you hear me now?
Oh my God.
Kinda. Barely.
Oh my God. Okay, go ahead.
Perfect.
Okay.
It's not just me. The FBI is kicking us off one by one.
No, Trey, it's really bad. You might want to mute. Oh my God. Okay. At this point.
Okay. What else?
I want to take questions. Okay.
Cool. Let's do it. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
So the first one we have is from Jay Leal, and they want to know, why did he put them in tanks? Everyone seems to they can't get past the fact of the disposal of the bodies. You know, like, even I've noticed in chat.
It's horrific.
Well, it is horrific. But I noticed in chat, they're like, okay, well, we hear what you're saying, but, I mean, they're not saying this verbatim, but this is what they're coming across like. Right. We get what you're saying, but he still put him in tanks. He's guilty, right? So I want you to address that.
Right. And let me say this. I have never said that Chris should not be held responsible for what part he played. I have never said he deserves to walk out of prison unaccountable for anything he did. Let me make that very, very clear. In this, he did do things, and he's held responsible for that. However, I want to break down that morning for you. And I mean, I know people are going to want to eat my feet off for this, but when he went out there, he put him in this truck. And let me just say that too. Like I said, if Chris did basically anything but what he did that day, I think he was guilty. I would. If he had got up on that front porch and cried his eyes out, I'd say guilty. If he got up there and started talking trash about his wife, I'd say guilty. If he did anything, if that morning he went out to his truck and drove around back, I'd say guilty. If he'd have taken him, I mean, think about Shanann's car. Shanann's car was in the garage. She's got tinted windows. He could have easily put them in there, drove anywhere in that area, and left them somewhere else, and I'd say guilty. You know what I'm saying? He parked his truck out front, and he knows that camera's right there, and brings him out to the truck and goes to work. Panic. Like, if you think about his confession and for a second forget all the actual players in this and just think if this was just a crime scene that had no people that we are emotionally tied to, and you think of this guy going downstairs, having an emotional chat, going downstairs and going upstairs and then seeing it, and then that account takes place. Like, I know when the reenactment was going on, it was like 15 seconds. 15 seconds and your life is a whirlwind. And let me answer some questions first before I get to the oil tank, because people say, why did he call 911? Well, he himself had just committed a crime.
Right.
He had just strangled his wife or choked his wife. So there. And then number two, why didn't he perform CPR? Now, the girls, when he says that they're blue, when you have any type of asphyxiation, the coloring, like if you choke on a piece of chicken, like your lips turn blue, like that happens very, very quickly. So we'll go, why would he say they turn blue? Well, because of the lack of air, they will. It's different than being in a car accident. So, and number two, his answer to me when I asked him myself was, I didn't want to hurt them. Now, if you know anybody who's been a police officer, an EMT, a firefighter, they will say that's why they have a senior person with them, because the first time in an emergency they have to perform CPR, it's traumatic. And they usually have the senior person start it. So that first initial, those compressions, and then they'll throw that person on there. It's not natural for somebody to just do that. I mean, and some people it might be, but I'm just saying like that is a very strong possibility that with them being blue, his mind, like, oh my gosh, you have to realize the vacuum that probably happened in that. I have my hands on my wife's neck and I release, and this is not good. And my girl, oh my gosh, he goes and he's picking up Cece and looking at her, and he goes into Bella's room. He's doing the same thing with her. And he is like, what happened? And I'm sure he says he was yelling. He was freaking out, like, what in the heck just freaking happened? And so he gets them in his truck and takes them to the oil site, and he starts working. And if you think about the possibility that he was traumatized, like actually traumatized, And is this real? What is happening? Oh, my PTSD, when people are in traumatic situations, like in war, they get shot at and they just keep working. Like, that is a real thing that happens. Like, that is very much like what Chris did. So he takes them out to the oil site, and he did not drive there to put them there. That is false. He did not say, I'm going to kill the accident part, like that, I'm going to kill my family, or this part of like not killing my family, however you want to look at that, and drive and put them there. That's not what happened. He was on the phone texting, making phone calls. He goes out there, he starts working. He literally, it's not until people are going to show up that process of leaving them there happened. And he actually says that in both his confession in Colorado and in Wisconsin, is that he literally, like when he was done putting the dirt over Shanann, he broke the rake. He slammed it on the ground. He was angry that had just happened. Like, and I think a part of him was like in shock. And he literally had, he said, I had nothing, no other choice. Like I'm like, this is exactly how he's told me. And he said that in the confession, like I said, both places. It just, he didn't know what he was doing. He happens to work in an oil field. There's nothing else out there. These people are driving to his work site, and he knew it. And he's got ground and he's got oil tanks, and he did not have time to dig a hole for everybody. That's all they had there. And like I said, I know it's horrific. I don't like it. It is terrible. It is horrific. It is sad. He thinks it's horrific. He thinks it's terrible. I mean, it is nothing takes that away. But I'm just telling you what the thought process was. If he could even literally, and that's like afterwards, like saying that was a thought process. Like now it is literally, there was nothing else. They were people he knew, they realized that they were now at that point to be on their way. And he has a truck, and he's got people in there, and he's got clear windows, and he's got to do something. Is it the right thing? No.
So basically, this is what he told you when he explained why.
And
like,
if you listen to his confessions, he actually says it both times. If you listen to all the confessions, and as a matter of fact, I'll tell you, at the end of the first confession, which is like ironically parts that people don't listen to, is he tells Tammy asks him, so when does that tank get checked? And he was like, I'm like, at the end of the week, or like in a week or something like that. And she goes, wait, what? She goes, people will check that tank or something in a week? And she goes, so they would know that they were in there? And he's like, yeah. And he says, why do you think I'm in here without an attorney? Chris wasn't trying to get away with this. He was traumatized. He wanted his dad out there. I mean, would a lot of us do things differently? Yeah. But I pray none of us are ever in this situation to have to find out how he'd handle it. Because like I said, I'm not here to say he's not responsible for the things he's responsible for, because he is. Absolutely. I just happen to think that the things he's responsible for is a little bit different than what he's been charged with. And let me say that. He never pled guilty or wrote a statement, anything other than his first confession. As a matter of fact, if you listen to what the DA says, when you plead guilty, you typically, the judge has a packet of evidence against you. Well, the judge had nothing. So that's its own issue right there. But also, when you do that, they make the person write down all the details of the crime. So that way the judge knows that this person is guilty. Here's all the evidence, and this person's story matches it so that someone's not just taking the rap for it. The DA literally says he had to go in there to the court after meeting with attorneys. And I'm putting all of this on my YouTube. It's just, I don't put stuff out. I can't match it with something else. He said, I met with attorneys, and I needed to convince the judge what our theory was. I had to tell him just enough that he believed it, but not too much so it was too horrific for the family in the courtroom. And I'm like, when has that ever happened? When would anyone be okay with a judge not having evidence? The only thing that he had was Chris's original confession. So he never changed that. And the DA said, you've heard him on different like interviews and stuff, that they knew that Chris would not take that plea deal if he had to plead guilty. If he had to actually say he was guilty for everything, he never would have got that plea deal. He never would have taken it. Well, hello, doesn't that say something? Like, he did not plead guilty to everything. Are the charges there? Yes. But as far as what was supposed to happen, if that was real, the DA himself says we knew that Chris would never take the plea deal if he had to plead guilty to everything and say he did everything. And I'm like, what? What are you, like, what in the heck is happening? How is this possible? So, I mean,
basically,
that's the problem with all of this.
Right. I mean, basically, I know that there's a lot that goes with every question, trust me. But what you're saying is, I just want to break down why he put him in the tanks. It wasn't that he thought, oh, I have these 2 tanks, I can throw them in and blah, blah, blah.
No, absolutely not. No.
He was, so what you're saying is he was an autopilot. He hadn't even absorbed what had just happened.
No, absolutely. And when he was there, he literally says, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what was going on. I mean, you have to realize, even those first court hearings, I mean, he was like in and out of like, is this real? Like, even he was so like, what is happening? I mean, I'll be honest. It was, I will say, a lot more clarity in his brain happened. Like, you know, he was in lockdown 23 hours a day for like a year and a half. And that was hard. And that was not, all he had was all these people writing him all these things, you know? So I'll be honest, like, more as he got into going to general population, it was like putting those walls away from him, you know, but he you know, to walk out of his cell. He'll tell you, he never wanted to put them in there. That is not something, that is horrific to him. And that is extremely painful for him. That is everything, this whole thing. He honestly wishes, I mean, everyone does. He wishes this had never happened. That's why he said that statement to his dad, I wish I would have just gone to the game that night. You know, I mean, no, this was not premeditated. This was not him. I'm taking them there. This is where I'm going to bury them. Absolutely not. 100%. Absolutely not.
Okay, I didn't want to get ahead and go to Wisconsin, but that's all I'm seeing people say is, but he said in February that he did it.
Right. So, Chris,
I don't know if you want to talk about
we're
that.
actually looking. I'll talk a little about that.
Okay.
Number one, we're looking at why they were even out there and how they got in there. Because I've talked to some guards, and that has never happened. Like, his case was closed. They came in there with plain clothes. How that happened, we have no idea. We're in the process of finding out, though. So when we have answers, we'll tell you. But what he was told, and now we know it's obviously a lie, but what he was told was, we walked in there. He had no idea they're coming. He got it's like a library card type thing. They walk him in there, and he's there. And at first, he thought they were there to take him back to Colorado. And Colorado, as you can imagine, was like horrific. Like, that was, I mean, with the information that was out there, those guys were not nice. And I get it. I mean, I would not be nice. Probably. I mean, that's not good. So he thought that originally. And then as we started talking to them, they had no notepads, no nothing, plain clothes. He had no idea he'd been recorded. They very quickly turned it into an interrogation. That's exactly, I was the first person that he talked to after that happened. I have that call recorded, and it will probably more than likely be released on my channel soon. Because I think it's going to clear up a lot about that situation. You have to realize at this point, Chris he knew it was his job to take 100% responsibility for everything. Just that. And when they were there, I mean, if you listen to it, it is clear that Chris is not wanting to talk. He's not wanting to say anything. He's not wanting to give him information. He'll talk about random stuff, and that's what people go, well, why is he joking and laughing? Because that's what he's not wanting to talk about this case. He didn't want to take, like, as far as like writing stuff down and taking all responsibility, that he wasn't going to do that. And he didn't want to be pushed into that here either. But then you start hearing them talking and pushing, and you hear coders saying, come on, Chris, we need more details. We need this. You can do it. And like almost like a director of a play. And then when Chris would say something small, like, exactly, Chris, we need more of that. And I'm like, what? Are we here for a confession? Or are we here for acting class? Like, what are you doing? And like I said, if you listen to one of the videos I just put out about bloodshot eyes, there's a part in the beginning where they ask about, did she have bloodshot eyes? And he says, because they're pushing him. And he doesn't, he's just like thinking that, no, yeah, whatever is going to get him back to his cell. And it's not happening. And it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. And then later when he's talking about putting the dirt down, he says, you know what you guys said earlier about the bloodshot eyes? That's when I saw it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like when I heard that, I was like, are you kidding me? Because I break it down and I show you the autopsy on my channel. And there's no petechia. Petechia is the bloodshot eyes, the ruptured eyes, and there was none.
I was going to ask. I didn't see anything in the autopsy, but I was curious. Like, was there really petechia?
No, nope. There was none. None. Not in her facial planes. Not in her buccal mucosa, up in her lip. Not in her nothing. Like zero. None. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, here we go. Now we're in for it. But here's a detail I will say that's so sad. But if Chris was there, number one, they sold it to the news like he volunteered this, like he wanted to give them the confession. That is not true. And if you listen to that, it is glaringly obvious that that is not true. But if they start going through details, I mean, clearly if Chris is going to confess to stuff, he's going to say things that line up with the autopsy, right? Because he did in the first confession. So if he was that genius, he could do it again with a different story that put him all at fault. But as he talks about it, he talks about strangling Shanann on her back, like strangling her. Well, there's no signs of strangulation, none. As far as like front to back, like her trachea is not crushed, her hyoid bone's intact, the bruising doesn't match a front strangulation, her everything, nothing supports that. And I was thinking like, okay, wait a minute. If you're there for an honest confession and you know the autopsy, why aren't you saying, Chris, you're lying? Chris, that's not true. It's not in the autopsy. Come again, buddy. That's not real. They never stopped him. They actually praised him when he would give false information out, but it's because they know that the majority of the people in this world don't know anything and don't know the autopsy. They trust what they hear. They think that the news is gospel, and these stories is gospel. And I'm like, I used to laugh at like the whole fake news thing. And now for real, I'm like, fake news, not real. But then when they go into Bella's injuries, I covered that on my channel. She had those bruises adjacent to her upper lip. She had that little tear. Well, her frenulum was torn.
Yep.
Yeah, her frenulum was torn. And they asked Chris, because he goes on to say that he put his hand flat over the mouth and then strangled them, like put his hand on their throat. Well, the evidence does not support it. And a blanket over their head. There's no fibers. There's no nothing. There's no hand marks. And Chris was a strong guy at that point. There was no marks in their neck, no internal injuries that supported that. But then when Tammy Lee, imagine so, it's Tammy Lee now, she chimes in with Bella's injuries and says, well, what about this? What about the Bella's injuries? And Chris says, well, I know that the DA got up there and said something about a tear in her lip or a hole in her lip. He's like, I didn't see a hole in her lip. Like he didn't even know what Bella's injuries were. No idea what they were. She would never explain what the injuries were. And so he was asking them, like, I didn't see a tear on her lip. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then Tammy goes, you know that thing under your lip? And then she apparently, like, because it sounded like she's holding open and showing and whatever. And he goes, yeah. And she goes, there's a tear there. And he was like, didn't even know that that's what had happened. And then Tammy Lee proceeds to say, did you put your hands on her mouth like this? And he says, no. He says, no. And she then, I think, acts it out because it seems like that's from the conversation. So she was like this. And he's like, no, I didn't do that. And I'm like, oh, Chris, like, if you're trying to now confess to this murder, like, you are blowing it. And that's the thing, is that they didn't say that. They didn't say, Chris, like, well, they're explaining that is the injury that she had. And he's saying no. But I will say this, I caught just the other day, was him saying maybe that was from her, or when she, or something like that. Maybe it's when she, something. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, uh-oh. So, I mean, they never corrected one wrong thing that's from the evidence, because let me tell you something, you guys, when it comes to forensic evidence, we do have some forensic evidence. We have internal injuries. We have an autopsy that says certain things that is impossible for Chris to know internally, like Bella having, or Cece having, a collapsed lung. That has not been widely talked about. And why she would have had that, or why their injuries would be different. I went through all of that and I put it together in a reenactment. And he didn't even, everything he was talking about was wildly off what was in the autopsy. And I'm like, but then they keep going and going. And as Chris would give, Corey even says at one point, like, even if you don't know it's true or don't know all the way, like, just say it. We need more of that, Chris. And I was like, are you kidding me? So they were talking about before, supposedly Tammy put all this information in Chris's head, but it was just Shanann. It was not a detail. There was not one thing she said about anything at that house, obviously, because they didn't know at that time. So she just said Shanann, but then Chris was able to magically put all those things together. Now, I will say this. People have said, well, if he committed the crime, he would know how it was done. I get that. However, it doesn't match the forensics. It doesn't match. If he just did that, there's zero way to account for other things that he did say. There's no way he could have put the noises, the camera angles, all those things together and made it forensically, internally on all of them line up. It's impossible. So, you got to take that into account. So when he was in Wisconsin, they were just there for a story. And what's sad is,
well, didn't they tell him, didn't they tell him this is for Shanann's family? They want closure.
What they said was, what they said was they came there to hear him basically account for everything. There's no notepads, no nothing. He just needed to give them all these details, enough to clear her name. And then they were going to go back and say he did it. And then that was it. It was going nowhere else.
Because they knew they officially didn't have it on record of him confessing to all three murders.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. How crazy is that?
How can you go back and get this statement after that? Yeah, that's messed up.
Right.
See, now that is messed up.
That's my whole point. That is my whole point. How can you charge somebody with something that you don't have any evidence to support?
Well, because they got him to agree to a plea deal. That's how.
No. Originally, they put all these charges and arraigned him with all these charges. And when you do that, you have to have evidence. That's why
that's why they
preliminary hearing.
Well, I think that's why they pushed the plea deal, because they didn't. They didn't have enough. Because all the jury would need, is a little bit of doubt. And
I kind of think that's why, I don't mean to cut you off, Jay, but I kind of think that's why they possibly went to Wisconsin, was to tie up loose ends for the reports.
Oh, 100%. 1,000%. And you have to think about this. Dr. Phil was already locked and loaded. you have to realize this was way bigger. And that goes to the story, you guys, is those things were already in place. You want to know who called Chris the next day? Tammy. Tammy called Chris. And that also never happened.
Wait, what?
Tammy called Chris and was like, just want to let you know that it is going to get out. It got out. We don't know how much got out, but it got out.
No way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just unheard of. It's just unheard of.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. So when he called me and I was like, oh, it's out there.
I mean, if not anything else, all of these, like, I don't want to say shady, but it's like sketchy things that were done are interesting nonetheless. If you don't believe what
illegal.
Kim's saying, right? I mean, just the justice system side of this is
100%. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
And like I've said, I mean, if anything, I don't care who you are, but you're right as an American citizen, you have constitutional rights. And no matter what, I remember one of the attorneys on one of these channels, Scott Rice, was going over, I think, the autopsy. And he said, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've done. You still, if I'm defending you, I still have to defend your rights.
Right.
Period. And literally every right of Chris's in this process was trampled. And I get people go, well, he deserves it. He did it. Fine. Perfect. That's fine. I can't.
Yeah, but you can't, but you know what? You can't. That mentality, no, you can't.
Yeah. It's like, I can't.
There's nothing you can say.
I look at that and go, if that was me, if this happened to me, I mean, holy cow, that's scary. To be able to have
that's
charges brought.
That could be someone, your brother. That could be, and I've said that numerous times on my channel, like this could be your brother. And for you to say, oh, well, he deserves it. Well, I certainly hope that, A, you're not on a jury. Yeah, you're not on a jury one day. Yeah. And B, it doesn't happen to you or someone you care about. Because you know what?
Yeah.
Regardless, like, the truth is the truth. And if his initial confession is the truth, we need to pay attention to that. We need to pay attention to the fact that they
go back to this.
Yes, that they went to Wisconsin and
force a confession for real. I mean, like I said, they only put the tech. That's what's so crazy. The techniques that they used, and she's such a good interrogator. She didn't on the polygraph cover the girls. Why? If Chris was a horrific liar, I think his score was like 18 versus like a 4. He was horrible. Then why not? Because if she wasn't emotionally attached to Shanann, any other person, like they're going to cover their bases. They're going to check every single person. Like that's probably normal protocol. And then you go into, and then they say they use these themes. And on that Oxygen special, they say, we use themes to get Chris to confess. Well, if that is a police tactic that's widely used to get a confession, then it worked. Like you got it. And then you brought Ronnie in, who by all accounts is the end all be all for getting Chris to confess. He's his hero. And again, Tammy goes off for like 3 minutes on the Oxygen special. He's his hero. He's his best friend. And if there's one person who's going to tell the truth to, it's going to be his dad.
Yeah.
Well, then when it happened, it was like, no. But like I said, where do you draw the line right there then? When he's talking to his dad of where the truth started and where it stopped.
Right.
Or vice versa. Because then when they brought him the paperwork, he gives him all the information, everything after that he was honest about. But then,
I think it's funny too that everyone is so quick to believe everything in the Wisconsin confession, but not in the first one. I mean, that's what
we need to pull up. We should have an autopsy go through. Maybe we should have a reading of the autopsy because maybe people haven't seen it. Maybe they don't understand, or they think that we're just making it up now. Like I will go on my channel. I show you the autopsy. I show you the injuries. I walk you through it. And like I said, nobody else has. Nobody else. The DA hasn't even put out something that can prove Chris, the story's wrong. Like you guys, if you think that I'm wrong, you better start calling the DA, blowing them up and saying, you need to put out something to prove this girl wrong. Tell them Say, we demand it, because you guys do. Everyone deserves the truth. Start talking to them. Say, you've talked a lot of crap. You've thrown out a lot of fake stuff. Like, why don't you, since you've charged him with this, provide information that's real, that's true?
Can we
because
talk?
Like I said, the autopsy, it doesn't match the evidence. It doesn't match the second confession at all. Like zero.
Well, there should have
Nothing.
never been a second confession after a plea bargain.
Never.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well, and Tammy, I mean, hold on a second.
No, go ahead.
Tammy says on my channel, again, I keep saying that because I don't just say things unless I can put that to their mouth.
Right.
Them saying it. This is not my opinion. This is not my theory. This is what they have said. She says, I had to go to Wisconsin. I had to hear him take responsibility for everything and clear Shanann's name. And I'm like thinking, again, that's her emotional tie. She was not leaving. Tammy was not leaving until that was done, period. I don't care what anyone says. That is exactly what happened. That's from her mouth. And you're there for 5 hours. Your story of like Chris voluntarily gave us this confession. Well, do you hear it? Do you hear him voluntarily giving this information? Absolutely not. It's a this or that. Did this happen to this, to this, to this? That would have been what they're blaming on the first one. That would have been what you have seen if that was real, that behavior. And I'm like, but like I said, I don't blame people because I know most people, a lot of people have early discovery. And that's why on my channel, I know someone, I know I've been using on purpose, like I have my discovery. I actually have a second like stack of like I think somewhere around 50 pages that we got additionally. But I've been trying to use like YouTube channels of this so that people that do not have the discovery, that do not have their own videos can go. And I try to make it when I show it, like the actual, if it's a YouTube person, I try to make it so they can see like where it's from so they can go themselves and listen to all of it. Because I don't like when people take like screenshots, you don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Because that could be anything. I try to make sure, like if I'm getting like a camera, like a police camera, I will go to like Denver 7 News and use there so that people go, okay, cool. She's not like editing this and making it for her own good. Like it's from that. Because even like having my own copy, I can easily doctor that and change that how I wanted to easily. So I don't want to do that. I've been trying to make it so that when I'm doing that, I'm sharing these articles that they are in. I'm sharing these police cameras that the news has shared. That's really honestly like not mine. So people can't say, well, Kim, you probably edited it. You're probably doing this. Well,
right.
No, I'm doing that on purpose.
No, and I like that. You're
reason.
sticking with the facts and not your personal feelings.
Yeah.
If you guys want Kim's channel link, I put it in the description of the video. So I saw some people asking for that. The link to her channel is there.
I will say this. People have a hard time. That reenactment, we did it so many ways. We started very, very, very forensically and then realized like that's not going to work out. We started with people that looked similar, and then that was too traumatizing. We went to dolls. We went through so many scenarios, and it was literally just too much for me to handle. Like I was like, I can't do this. I can't put it like this. So I
speaking of
two of the things like we were just.
Speaking of reenactments, though, I thought it was interesting that the investigators used one of the girls' own dolls in the reenactment.
That was so weird.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Dre brought
Yeah.
that to my attention. I never noticed that was like Bella or Cece's doll. But anyways, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, just that made me think of that.
And that's why you have to watch the reenactment. And number two, when the police put the video out or on the news stuff, like it's the audio is not synced with the video. And so on my channel, I put the video and the audio together. And I will tell you, the first time I watched it together, it was chilling to me. It was so different to me when I watched it synced because they conveniently have the audio and video like sometimes it's 5 seconds off, sometimes it's 15 seconds off.
I'm telling you,
30 seconds off.
I told you when we talked that that I had come across that in the discovery, the initial confession in detail that I had never paid attention to because it was near the polygraph. It was near the polygraph report. So, but I did come across that recently and I was like, whoa, I never heard these details. I was like, why wasn't this in the video? Because I just watched the video and thought, oh, I saw the whole confession. But that wasn't the case. Yeah. And then, boom, you came out with your video. It was crazy.
Well, there's so many things because I was even doing a video the other night about a taxi cab charge on Shanann's card. And I was like, it's not in the discovery. And what I'm saying is the mention that there's a taxi cab charge is, but the clarification of on the 12th, what state it was in or where it was at or why was not. And so there's so many things in the discovery as far as even their conversations, even things from the video, like the police cam that's not in there. So, I mean, it's just so much and everything's so jumbled. And I'll tell you to this day, every single day I go through that and I find something else. Because when you're looking for something, it's like when you buy a new car and you buy a yellow car, all of a sudden you see every yellow car in the universe is in front of you because your attention is brought to it. So that's the problem, is that also in this case, if your attention is on something specific, it's all you're going to see. And it's hard to like go backwards and then go, okay, I got to look at a different perspective. And then that's all you see. And then that's all you see in the other direction. It's like, there's so much.
Yeah,
I go through that thing every day, inside and out, upside and down. It's like, I still find new stuff every day. And it's like, holy
well,
God.
And that's why I go back and forth. I think like a lot of people where I will go and think, okay, the initial confession. Yep. That fits. But then there'll be other things that pop up, that he said in Wisconsin or, just different little things. And then I'm like, oh, now I'm on the fence again. Like, that's why I would love to see a trial in this case.
Yeah. And trust me, I mean, that's what I do. I have to, from a forensic aspect, when I'm putting this stuff together, I always question myself. I am a gatherer. As much as I'm a talker and I put things together, I gather and gather and gather and gather everyone's opinions, everyone's thoughts, everyone's thing. Even when someone's like negative in the comments and they say, what about this? I take it. I don't take the hate because that's irrelevant. That's somebody's, that I get people are upset. That's fine. But I take information from every outlet all the time, constantly, day and night. And I use it every time to go, okay, they're saying this. How does it disprove me? Because I try to disprove myself. This is not about me just going, oh, I figured it out and here it is. No, I constantly am trying to disprove myself. Any person who's in that situation to put something forensically out, that's what you do. You constantly try to disprove yourself. So first you try to get to the point of being able to say, okay, can we line this up in any way to perform to get it till it lines up? And then once you get there, how many other ways, what other things could possibly, if I change one thing, how's it going to affect the whole entire thing? And it's just that constant circle. But I mean, I've just gotten to a point that I've done that for 2 years and I still do it every day, but it's like, I cannot find a way. And I have not seen one person out there, like I said, anybody in the forensic field, put them on my video, tell them to watch it. Even from the medical field, get on my video, watch it. And what they'll say is, that's what they do. They go, well, even if it's true, what about the oiler? And I'm like, okay, there you go. See, but it's hard for people to watch that and go, crap, like, what if, oh my gosh, it lines up.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, when his parents watched that for the first time, I mean, they had clarity. They were like, oh my gosh, because a lot of people have seen the longer part of the confession, and most people don't go back to the summary part where they now have Ronnie gone, and it's like final walkthrough. They're asking him very specific questions, and Chris acts it out. Chris gives you detail by detail by detail. And why I do it so annoyingly in my video, I go, okay, this detail is so important. Remember this detail, because it is. What he's explaining, being on going upstairs, look at the webcam, the baby monitor, and seeing Shanann's back, if he was lying for ease of a story, he clearly would have said Bella's room, because Bella's camera is across the room and more easily at Shanann's back in that room. If he wanted to lie, that's what he would have said, you know? So the fact that Cece's camera is it's a narrow window of what he could have seen. And any other way than what he did see, based upon even the police's reenactment, they show him. And Chris would have been able to say, because the police reenacted it, yeah, I saw her. And if he would have said, no, I didn't see, they go, well, you're lying. We have this video. We've acted it out. You'd clearly have saw her hands, you know? So you just can't make all those things up. Like literally you can't. And so, I mean.
Okay, I've got
like
two more questions lined up.
Someone to do it.
Oh, me too. Me too. Okay, next one. Can you speak on the shadows under the truck on the security video? And this is from N. Rivera.
Yes. So that is something that I've recently been hearing about and seen. Now, again, I will say this. Because it was not in the case. That is why I've left a lot of those things outside, because I've always said, well, I know a lot of things have come in and out of the discovery. And I'm like, is this something new that, like, is there any way to perform? Like, I feel like if Colorado had this and that was critical, or they forensically watched it and that was a deal, why was that not in the case? Why was that not part of, when the DA got in front of the judge, the DA said, we have a video of Chris going 3 times to his truck, 1 for each body. Okay. So they're deceased. That was their story. They were deceased. So to introduce now a video where there's a shadow of them, which I honestly am so weirded out by, because the shadow video only became a thing, really, that I've seen after they're in Wisconsin. And Chris says they're alive. And I was like, this mysterious video is now like so important. All I'm going to say is I've watched it. I've seen it, but I'm not going to comment on that because it's not part of the case. And for me, what I'm doing with this case is I'm working with what was put in the discovery as what they call fact, or their story, or whatever the evidence is that. And it's not because they're like Nicole Kessinger. I'm not trying to make her look guilty or introduce these things differently or other stories. I don't do that. I'm only trying to work with what's there. Now, if we go back to court and that's introduced, then you better believe I will be on that thing like a hawk. But I don't know enough about the video literally to know if it's not smooth doctored, because I've seen so many videos where people have introduced, like, oh, Ronnie's head walking into the garage, or Nicole Kessinger's walking with the ponytail on. I'm like, what the heck? So to be honest, that is not something I focused on. I don't know enough about that to have a comment on that, really. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I think the video is fake. I think that video has been zoomed in on and, twisted, turned every which way.
Yeah.
I've never agreed with the shadow theory ever, because I did not think
wasn't part of the case.
No, and I didn't think that the girls were alive when they left. I never believed that from the minute I heard it.
Well, here's my thing too. Then you also have this: if then Chris was arraigned on charges that were based upon him killing them in the home, and now the crime scene's changed, then we have a bigger problem on our hands. If the crime scene's now changed, like, why is that not ringing a bell for anybody? That a DA would be like, oh yeah, now you have a different story and the crime scene's changed. Cool. Wait. What? You had supposedly enough evidence the judge didn't even see that was to hold him responsible for these crimes, and evidence you had to convict him of that, period. And now the crime scene's changed. Are you kidding me? I don't know. I think it's fishy too. I don't have any idea.
Okay.
It's crazy.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Why, if SW killed the girls, did CW say Bella asked if he was going to do to her what he did to CC and said, Daddy, no? And will there be an appeal? Thank you. That is Southern California Cat Lady again.
Thank you for your question. There is going to be a 35C, 100%. And what was the other part? Sorry, I heard that part. I was like, yes. What was the other part?
Why did he say Bella asked if he was going to do her what he did to Cece?
I don't know. And I'll say this too about Shanann Cale's book. I don't know why he said that. To be honest, a lot of things in the last year and a half, he doesn't remember. He doesn't remember a lot of the details about what he told the investigators. And I'm like, what's what happens when you lie? Because you don't remember it. Like, you just, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then when Shanann Cale did her book, I think he said, I know that you will not write this book or write my testimony if I don't take responsibility for everything. If I say anything but shoot everything, I honestly think it was just a regurgitation effort of what he could remember he told them and tried to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why he said
well,
that.
He's a good storyteller, right?
Well, he's a good writer for sure.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
we heard that he wrote some story when he was young, and he had his teacher convinced that they went to Japan or something over summer vacation. So if he was, making up this story in over 5 hours, I just don't think it's that telling, really. I mean,
well, I think honestly, it's you get to the point where you're kind of like, he did. You get that like numb, like glazed over, traumatized, like and he says, you guys will do what you do. You talk me in circles. My mind turns to mush like before. Like, he references back to the original confession when all that stuff was going on. So I'll tell you this, like, he's been in a cell for 23 hours a day for a long time, and he's had thousands and thousands and thousands of letters written to him. He's had probably close to that many conversations with us, of us asking questions, of putting things in his head. And I will say that probably a lot of that is nightmares, is people's stories. Did they say this to you a lot? I mean, I don't know like what that is from. I mean, I know for a long time he was talking about these nightmares he was having, and it was like so real. And I'm like, well, I can imagine, like, you're in a cell for 23 hours a day. You don't even know. You are so traumatized by every account. Like, I don't know. I don't know. He hasn't, he's never told me that to me. And I've asked him about that, and nothing.
He won't tell you.
He doesn't know. He doesn't remember writing that. He doesn't, nothing. And I'll even play him video. I'll play him back audio and stuff. And there's things he's just like, I never even heard that. Like, I remember us talking about Nicole Atkinson at the house, and Shanann had stopped depositing her checks into the account, and he didn't know that. And he also didn't know that day Nicole Atkinson was like, deposit him, put him into the account. And he was like, no, that's her money. And he didn't remember any of that.
Where did that come from?
That's on one of the videos. So yeah, she had stopped depositing her checks. There was 2 checks that were withheld. They were just at Thrive, I guess. And Nicole was saying to deposit them. And he was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So
she was probably like
putting her money.
She was probably, if they were talking about separating, maybe, getting her own little nest egg going on, because they were behind on their mortgage, so they weren't paying that.
Yeah. Yeah, and he didn't know that either. He didn't know that. He had no idea.
Well, he knew that, because I remember in his video, in the confession or the interrogation, he said that she took out money out of the 401k like
that was in January.
5 months prior.
January. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So he knew that, and that's why he thought they were fine. But he didn't know that she was putting, like, he found out, I guess, like, she was putting money, like, sending money somewhere else for the house. But he didn't deal with the finances. If you even look in the video, everyone's like, there's no way he didn't have that much control. I'm like, well, yeah, he didn't.
No, he couldn't even log in.
Kitchen,
he didn't even know how to log in.
Yeah, he had no app. He had to call in, and I was like, dang.
Yeah, lesson to all men out there, like, know your stuff. Like, keep track of your stuff, too.
Yes.
All right, this question I was going to ask, Stella Bella, she said, why were Bella and Cece's medical records sealed?
That was the prosecution side. We don't know. That was part of what they wanted, and we don't know. But that was part of the plea deal. And I think that what Chris thought at the time was just like, he thought that it was for
So he didn't request that?
No.
Okay. I was under the assumption that
I
he
think
requested those be.
no.
Okay. Well, thanks
No,
for clearing that up for me.
What he wanted, the family had asked to be sealed was the autopsy pictures because they didn't want that out there. I mean, obviously for obvious reasons. I mean, everyone is chowed all over this. I mean, can you imagine?
Oh,
if that was out there?
no. I don't
horrific.
blame
So,
him for that. I don't blame him for that.
So I know that that's what he thought was being
But there's
done.
so much skepticism
I mean,
around the girls being so sick and going to the hospital all the time, and Shanann's medical history. There's so much that has been talked about.
I'll tell you Chris's exact words to me about their medical history. He said that they were at the doctor's more than they were in school. That was his account of how he described it. That was exactly what he said to me.
Damn.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, they were there a lot. But like I said, the only thing that he knew, and I'll tell you this, he had no idea that her family went and cleared the house out. He didn't even know that until literally 6 or 7 months ago. He knew that they went in to get like his parents got a couple things. Like her mom's ashes were there, some jerseys from Chris, stuff like that. And they sold this toolbox, but he had no idea the house was emptied. He was like, wait a minute, that's a crime scene. He had no idea. No idea. None. Zero.
Wow.
None. Yeah.
Okay. So
I mean,
the
like
next
I said,
one.
he really had no idea if anything was going on.
Okay. The next one is Caden Shea. Does she know what androgynous production is, considering she brought up Shanann Watts' blood alcohol content and interpretation? My best friend is a medical examiner.
Okay. So what was the question?
Do you know what androgynous production is?
Okay. So if you look at, is she wanting to know, like her friend is a what? A what?
Medical examiner.
Okay. And what is she asking about the blood? Androgynous what?
Production?
I have no idea.
I don't either.
I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know what she's talking about.
Where is she? Caden, if you can elaborate on that, I'll look for your comment. Okay, the next one is Mon Fu. What else do you think NA lied about besides SW, not drinking and having diabetes? Do you think NA thought SW hurt herself at first?
Nicole Atkinson,
yeah.
Are you asking, or Nicole Kessinger?
Yeah, NA, Nicole Atkinson. Yep.
Well, I will say this. After looking through the discovery and seeing some text messages back and forth, I did see where I believe it was Cassie's husband who jumped in on the chat. I think they brought him into one of their discussions, and he's like, no, you can do this. It'll be okay, whatever. And then you see something changed in her, because she went from, in the beginning of the text messages, more like, I'll go for full custody, blah, blah, blah. And then it changed to, I can't do this. Like, my girls don't deserve this. They don't deserve to come from a divorced home. And then Nicole Atkinson released a video that was deleted. I still have it. I think it's back out on the internet, but it was a video that she was like, please, listen to your friends. Take what they say seriously. Put your phones down. Spend time with your family. And I mean, I would say this: if you're distraught, if you're assuming that your husband's cheating, and I mean, let's be real, like this happens. Like, people, they say when you go through divorces and separations, like, it's dangerous. Like, a lot of homicides happen when this is going on. So yeah, do I think that if she was that distraught and she was terrified, especially because she was very image driven, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but if she thought for any reason that her bubble was going to be burst, or I also look at some text messages that she said about Chris or to Chris is she asked him when she was in North Carolina, like, if the girls were even here, would you still be with me? And she's like, you love only the girls. You only care about the girls. You only want the girls, whatever that was. So did she get to a point where it was like she was upset that, like, she felt that, obviously, that Chris only loved the girls and wasn't caring about her? So have I heard of mothers like the story they brought up? Yes. In Castle Rock, Colorado, a mother was going through a divorce and didn't want her kids to have that life and didn't want her kids to be without her, and she did kill them. Is that possible? Yeah. Do I know for a fact if she was suicidal? No. But maybe Nicole's reaction does seem like she was concerned about that. I mean, clearly they had some motive to get to the house that morning. They were really worried about her. So, I mean, it might count for why she was so frantic, why she was so scared. And by all accounts from everyone, the diabetes thing didn't even come up till that weekend. So, I mean, I don't know what that is. Clearly she's not diabetic. She might have had a blood sugar issue or insulin issue because she wasn't eating properly, but to say diabetic, absolutely not. There's no diagnosis of her being diabetic. But, yeah, I mean, that's 100% is a possibility because, I mean, if you look at her text messages, she's getting very almost desperate and sad. And it's very like she's in despair kind of, you know? So, I mean, possible for sure.
All right. So sorry, Stella Bella followed up with the medical records question.
Okay.
And she said that she thinks something else was going on for that to happen. Other than just the autopsies. Yeah, she feels like there's more.
Wait,
for those medical records to be sealed.
For Shanann?
Mm-hmm.
For Shanann?
Well, for all of them, I think. Just the fact that they're all sealed.
Okay.
I mean, I can understand the children's because they're minors, but, you know, I mean, I don't understand Shanann's.
I know that her family wanted, like the autopsy stuff sealed for sure. And that's 100%. But I do know that the prosecution wanted it shut or sealed. I know that Chris was okay with the, with the autopsy for sure being sealed. He didn't know that everything else was going to go along with that. So, I mean, clearly there's a lot of mystery and a lot of, even with the prosecution's the one that held the autopsy. When does that ever happen? That does not happen. That's a defense. I mean, number one, that's not normal by any accounts. It does not happen. And they even had to get the person who did the autopsy to seal it. So the prosecution had to convince him that there was something in there that could taint the prosecution side. And I was like, really? Like, are you serious? So, I mean, there's a lot of who knows why the prosecution has done anything that they've done. But I know that Chris also has felt in this whole thing. He is very, okay, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. Like, he just takes it and does very, if someone asks for something, he'll, okay, perfect. Just go ahead and do it, whatever you want. Like, he doesn't argue. He's not a person who's confrontational. And that's what's sad, because if you think about this, if Chris was wanting a separation, he's already said, like, he tried to confront Shanann in the beginning of their marriage and got kicked out of the house. And even Nicole Kessinger said, like, have you ever brought up your finances to her? He's like, no, I have learned my lesson. So you think about that. If he did stand up to her and this happens, and then he confesses with his dad, and then Tammy shuts him down. I mean, he doesn't confront people for a reason. I mean, he's not like that. So if the prosecution said that, I mean, he did not know it was everybody.
Okay, so no I want to go back to hold on.
Jay, 1 second.
Okay.
I will say this. Chris wants them. He wants their records now. So I don't know what that will entail with this whole case, but he wants the records, because now he's like, if they were sealed, then what are they trying to hide? Like, what is there that I don't know about? So that will be something going forward, that he does want to have access to those. He wants that changed. So we'll see what that entails.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Let's go back. No, you guys, you don't have to pay for the next one to watch, what I'm going to do is members only chat because y'all are crazy. I can't sit here and
you guys, I'm sorry, but I give like very long answers.
No, you're fine. It's not you. It's not you. It's the fact that they don't want to be here, but they're here and they're being, disrespectful. It's like, it's nuts. Okay. So I want to go back to, now I lost my damn train of thought. The diabetes. I want to go back to the diabetes because I wanted to talk to you about the body cam footage when before Chris gets home and the officer's walking around the house and he's, looking in the windows and he's looking in the basement. He's checking out the basement windows and Nosy Nate is out on his back patio, his back deck. And I think the officer yelled something to him like, "Oh, have you seen them today?" or something along those lines. And he's like, "No, but she has diabetes or something," he says.
Yeah.
Okay, now, when did diabetes,
That's interesting.
when did the diabetes first come up with Shanann?
That weekend.
The weekend she was in Arizona.
100%, yeah. So that means that Nicole Atkinson, because a lot of people don't know that she was there for like 40 minutes originally and then left and then came back and was there for like, I believe like another 30 minutes or so and then called the police. So, I mean, there's people have wondered. I mean, heck, Chris has wondered Chris had never talked to this guy. When he found out that this guy put this account out, he was like, "Oh, what? Are you kidding me?" Shanann never even talked to this guy ever, like one time ever. And never, Chris like talked to him twice, he said, and the girls would probably wave when they went out like running around the neighborhood or in the wagon, but like, no, like there was no relationship there. And I know he did go back and say, "I made stuff up, blah, blah, blah," but there is a very big question mark of, well, how did he know that? Because he does come out and say, "Well, to be honest, I know there's like a diabetes thing and a blood sugar issue or something." And I'm like, seems like, I'm guessing that Nicole Atkinson had a conversation with him prior.
I mean, was it something we didn't see on camera, or because that was early on? That was like
no idea.
Right when the officer got there. I thought that was odd. Like,
yeah, like literally.
How
did
he know that?
No idea. I have we don't know either. So we would like to. I mean,
have you ever talked to Nate? Have you ever talked to Nosy Nate?
No. I haven't talked to any of those guys. Absolutely not. No, I mean, that's not my place to do that.
Okay, so I want to address, I just figured out that YouTube's update, I can actually pin comments at the top of chat.
Nice.
Oh, very cool. All right. So I want to address Caden Shea. She's the one that asked you about that technical engineous.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I've got a dictionary.
Go ahead, Dre.
Okay. So I did go to school a little bit. I have a dictionary right in front of me, Mosby's Medical Dictionary. It's by Elsevier. There is no such thing as an androgynous production. You have exogenous and endogenous variables, but there's no endogenous.
I know those.
Yeah,
I know those.
Me too, girl. Yeah, but
I do not know
because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
But so Caden Shea,
right,
girl,
try again.
So I will say this though. Let me say this about the blood though, because this is something that people also don't understand. When they're doing that report, if you look at Cece's blood work, you will see that her ethanol was it had risen while in the care of the lab. So, and what it says, there's an explanation, because you have to, if you're going to go testify in court because you own that report, you're the person who's got to testify against what you put in it. And people keep saying that their stuff is hidden. No, that's the report. You can't read it. No. That's not how it works. So with that report that he put in the comment section under Cece's, and again, this is on my channel because I go through the blood work toxicology on every one of them. And on hers, it says, due to the nature of basically being at the lab, from being there, the results quantity, they go from 99 to 174 due to the sample decomposing because the container it was in, the multiple times it was like there's like little samples taken out of it, or there's no preservative. So the sample decomposed. Now, if you go to the explanation of ethanol in the report, it says ethanol samples. The sample, not from the body, the sample can decompose, like from like how Cece's was, not in the right container, being tested multiple times, or not having a preservative. So that is a note under Celeste, or under her toxicology. Now under Shanann, I know this is like the most wild thing in the whole entire world. Everyone goes, it's from decomposition. And if that was true, like D.A. Rourke got up there and said, well, like I said, they didn't want the autopsy to come out for a reason. The prosecution held it because they were concerned that they'd see the BAC. I know even Scott Reich went through this and said, no, she had blood alcohol level. That was what it was, period. And if there was something that could cause it, that the person who did the report would put that in the opinion section like they did, and explain it like they did for Celeste. He did the same for reports. That's what they do. They own that report. They got to get on the stand and testify, which is exactly why when DA Rourke got up there, now realize DAs, they're like untouchable in the legal system. It's crazy. And that needs to change in its own, 100%. He gets up there and he says this stuff, and we can prove like all of these other lies he said when he's up there. But he asked the guy to come forward and to make a comment, and he says no. He doesn't do it. Want to know why? Because he would be in trouble. Because he would get in trouble for saying a statement that's not in his report. So, I mean, you guys can sit there and say that everybody else. I promise you, you can go public record to any state and you go ask them for 100 autopsies. Go to Nevada and ask for 100 autopsies of people in the desert. Because clearly, if it was because of the dirt, everyone in Vegas would be drunk that was buried out in the desert. And there's thousands of people that are buried out there. You would see that that's an issue.
Well, I'm gonna disagree though. I don't believe she was drunk. I just, that part of it, I have a hard time grasping. Just being honest.
Well, and a lot of people do, because
she doesn't look drunk to me. Walking in, she looks like someone who's on a mission, but she doesn't look intoxicated. I'll say this though, her steps were a little. Well, here's the thing: 0.128 is not like it's like an excessive, a huge amount. It's not that. I mean, she could have had a glass or two of wine,
Yeah,
which isn't a big deal. But why is that relevant? Why is that relevant? If she had a glass or two of wine,
two things. I mean. Like I said, it's not a big deal that way. But when it comes to the crime scene, the only way it could be relevant, and it is possible for it to be relevant, is Shanann's injuries. Because Shanann's injuries, if you look at the medical papers, they don't show like homicidal intent. They're not like, she doesn't have a fractured hyoid bone. Her cartilage isn't fractured. There's not all these aggressive injuries. She doesn't have blood pooling. She doesn't have petechia. She doesn't have like all these things you associate with a strangulation or a choke hold that was like super like held on for 3 or 4 minutes. So there is a thing where your gag reflex, if you have alcohol at a certain level, it will stop functioning. And especially after having that gag reflex stops and it leads to asphyxiation. So that could be an issue. As to, because her injuries weren't very significant and she didn't have anything else in her system that would account for that, that's when it would come into play only. As if that was something they would have to look at and say, well, biologically, as far as her insides, is that something that could have caused. And unfortunately, if that's the case, that's really sad, because had she then potentially been resuscitated, maybe she could have lived. So I don't know. That would be where it'd be an issue. But I mean, like I said, that's something for going back to court. that I'm sure they'll have to look at. I know.
I mean,
unless some videos where,
unless the drinking thing like places her somewhere where we didn't know she was. I mean, she could have had a glass or two on the plane if she was upset.
Well, and that also
tired or whatnot.
Also comes into account with like that cab charge, that taxi limousine charge. Well, her friends said that they were with her the whole entire day on the 12th, and they said that they took her to the airport. So where did this taxi charge come into play? And that also goes into, is it possible that she did go somewhere and a friend picked her up? You know, maybe Nicole picked her up and she had been drinking and she was concerned, hence that she passed out. I mean, we don't know. Again, that's the things that we can't prove. We don't know. But that would be looked into going into court going forward because of like Nicole's GPS and things that are questionable on there. The fact that like that charge was on the 12th, where'd that come from? What does that mean? I mean, it would come into play going back into court for sure.
Right. Let's see. Oh, here's another one. Valerie Ryan wants to know, hi, Kim. Thank you for coming on tonight. Do you feel Nate the neighbor was involved?
Yeah. I mean, somehow, for sure. Cause he didn't, there's
really?
Something weird about that because no. Involved in the crime? No, I don't think he's something to Shanann. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. She just said,
let me clarify.
She just said, do you feel Nate the neighbor was involved? So I'm thinking,
okay.
She's talking about the crime.
Crime-wise?
No,
absolutely. No, absolutely not. No, I think the people responsible for the crime are Chris and Shanann. That's it. Only. That's it. 100%.
But the diabetes thing and maybe a conversation he had with NA prior to her calling police.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Do I think that something there happened? Absolutely. I mean, clearly, because he walks up to the porch. Hey, what's going on? Well, that was weird. But he also didn't sign away right away. Like, he didn't sign away access to all of the I think it was Comcast, like all of their feed. I don't know if he did at the end, but he did not. I know there was like in September, he still had not done that. And so I was like, interesting. That's weird. So, because he said, they were saying something like, oh, there's a delay on the camera. He didn't catch certain things. And there's a part in the video where Nicole Atkinson said, when he's talking to the officer saying that there was nothing else, whatever. And Nicole goes, well, except for seeing Chris, right? And I was like, that kind of raised like a ding, ding, ding. But like I said, that could have been innocent. Her going over there, talking, saying, hey, you do have a camera. Can you check?
Or have you seen anybody?
Yeah.
I mean, she could have caught him outside. He seems like he was neighborhood patrol.
Yeah. Well, clearly something was discussed because there was no reason for him to go on this very dark path with Chris because nobody ever saw like that of Chris. So for him to do it, I was like, something had been said to him. And then it's weird because he literally is in all these videos. And I'm like, he's talking about Shanann and how she was. And Chris is like weird. He's like, what is this guy doing? We never had this interaction with him. He doesn't know anything. Like, I mean, clearly now from maybe he's referring to getting to know her through social media and through the crime. But like before that, nothing. Like they didn't have that relationship. That is completely fabricated. Completely.
They weren't friends at all.
So yeah, something. No, not at all. No.
So he just kind of he embellished that just like he embellished the fighting.
Well, he said it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did say that, but it was weird because, I mean, like I said, some conversation had to happen because he did mention that, and that was only that weekend. So if there's some part we're missing that happened, that there was a conversation there at some point. So that's all we know.
You know, I just want to say, Kim, I just want to say right now, I'm keeping up on chat a little bit. And I just want to say to you, thanks for coming on, because I don't know how anyone wants to go as a guest on a YouTube channel when this is how people act in chat. Like, seriously, shame on you people. Like, seriously. I don't know why anybody would.
I don't even look at that stuff.
Well, it's good.
I don't
because
look at that because
if I did, I wouldn't go on anybody's YouTube channel. You guys are horrendous. I mean, we're talking about another aspect, and you can't be open-minded enough to be respectful.
Here's the problem. I think that people go, well, respect her because she's dead. And I'm like, that's what history's about.
I'm talking about my channel. I've said, like, people that I bring on my panel are not going to be ridiculed in my chat. And I just don't understand. Adults don't get this concept. I mean, they're saying that you're bullying and you're bashing. Look in the mirror, people. Wow.
Like, I don't know. I mean, if I feel like I'm bashing, I don't know. Like, there is just this side. They have been able to speak their side. I mean, they have done Netflix. They've done all these different things. And I mean, this case is going back to court. So it's going to be brought up. And we do feel a sense of there's been a lot of misinformation. And if it's going to be like a his or her side, then it's important that we get the information out to the his side of the people out there versus the her side. And if the her side's not happy with it, then I'm sorry. But the Watts and Chris, I mean, they're unhappy with what they've gone through. So, I mean, I get it though. Like I said,
you don't have to explain anything. You really don't.
I mean,
I'm embarrassed for adults who come in here and act like that. I mean, respect me enough. If you're going to come into my chat, respect me enough to not ridicule anybody. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So one more thing I want to ask you before I think we should wrap up tonight, but I think we should definitely, do this again as you keep releasing your videos. We can kind of recap them because I think it was great.
Absolutely.
The last thing I wanted to ask about was the Oxy. And he gave, I don't even know the story of the Oxy, to be honest with you.
No, he did
really
not.
don't.
He did not give her Oxy.
So
he didn't give her Oxy. As a matter of fact, he didn't know about the Oxy until we brought it up to him. I think that's one of those things where they're looking for a story, and it's like all these things have been accounted for. I mean, clearly they could have said where. I mean, they can pull that history. They put it there on purpose. As far as Chris putting all that information in his head and using that because it's been accounted for, absolutely. But there was no Oxy. It wasn't in her system. They didn't find it on the report. She even said to her friends that she wasn't taking balance. I mean, even to try to get 80 milligrams in balance would have been like, I don't even know how many pills it would have taken to get that in there, but no, that's not 100. That was not real. It was not part of what happened.
Okay. Well, I want to make mention that you've managed to talk about all this information without bashing anybody. You haven't said anything bad about anybody.
I'm not trying to. So I mean, I'm not. I mean, I really.
Here's an interesting comment. Mary, hang on, let me pin it. I love this new feature. Okay, Mary says, I'm surprised that Nate hasn't released video of NK at the Watts house.
I know, me too.
How come we never saw any? Yeah, what the hell? Like,
I know. I'm saying the same thing. I mean, there's so much that could be released. Why wasn't all of Nicole Atkinson's text message released? Why wasn't Nicole Kessinger's text messages released? Why wasn't her mother? I mean, that is a great question. The prosecution, if they've got nothing to hide, it's all stuff from their side. Like we've all said, let's see it. Like if you have nothing to hide, let's see it. Produce it. Why not? It's the prosecution holding it. It's not our side. We want that. And we will get it. And trust me, I will say this. Trust me, that my channel, as we go through this process, we will release everything. As we get it, we will release everything as we get, no matter what it is. We're not going to release intimate pictures of people. That's not going to happen. But anything that's like court that they put out that we get on this side will be released 100%.
Did he say that he gave her Oxy because didn't Chris disperse her pills to her?
I think he said I think it was to Sherilyn Cadle that he gave her Oxy, but like I said, he didn't give her Oxy, and that was completely. I mean, he didn't even know about the Oxy until we talked about it. And like I said, there's a reason why the prosecution like plugged that in there and didn't say like didn't do what they did for everything else. So who knows? But that he did not give Roxy. He did not.
Okay. Here's another one. Valerie Ryan followed up. Have you or can you give proof to the DA Rourke and Tammy Lee, and wouldn't they lose their jobs?
Yes, hopefully they do. Yes, that will be something that will be filed as a complaint. It'll be part of a 35C. I think it's number 5, like things that are, I can't think off the top of my head. It's like a number 5 on the like 35C, like things that were not evidence that wasn't accessible previous, and it wasn't because there are statements that she's made since then, and the text messages we found after all that stuff. So yeah, it's all gonna be addressed. All these things will be addressed. It will be in court. Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna be finding out what rights or laws or something that would allow DA Rourke to charge him without having evidence. There was no preliminary hearing or evidentiary hearing, which he's entitled to. There was none of that stuff. Even Gene Powers, we obviously from her statement, something was not right. And then the minute the Watch said that they were not going to go on her press circuit to praise DA Rourke and to praise them for sparing the death penalty and all this stuff, she dropped the Watch. So that tells you something. Something in there is not right, and that will be looked into. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be opened back up and looked into for sure, 100%. And that's the thing is Chris, because he's the person in the case, will be entitled to those things, and especially going into court again, we'll have those. And so the things that were redacted and withheld, we will release that. As we get that, we will release it.
Do you still,
the prosecution?
Do you still have calls that you've had with Chris? Do you have all of those? Like, do you have any calls with him?
I have a lot of calls from Chris. Yeah, I talked to Chris up until he was quarantined, so he does not have COVID. I've seen people say he's got COVID. He's not been diagnosed with COVID yet.
Was he tested?
But he has been quarantined. Yeah, multiple times. He says it's not pleasant. But yeah, I do have a lot of calls. I have a lot of calls from all of the news we talked to, a lot of those things that we did on purpose in case that they were doing something that could be twisted. We were like, gotcha. So we do have a lot of that. And those things, like I said, as we go through stuff, I'm sure that we will be sharing that stuff. I do think that at some point Chris will come on our channel because he only gets one phone call now a day. And I do have a Zoom meeting with him on Tuesday of next week. So I'll have a 30-minute Zoom with him. We'll be going over like this and talking about this stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, we got to keep our T's crossed and our I's dotted for sure.
Okay. So when you talk to him though, you're going to ask him about the Dietzes, right?
I can't. I've been told to ask about the Dietzes. I keep getting that request, so
I know.
I best get to the bottom
the
of
damn Dietzes. I just want to know.
I will ask him. I will ask if he knows, and I'll tell you. There's a lot of things that Chris does not know. Like there's like a CPS case, like a Child Protective Services case that keeps coming up.
Yes.
Chris knows nothing about it. So if there was,
somebody said in chat tonight that something with CPS had to do with Frankie. I don't know if that's true, but that was something that someone threw. Yeah, I don't know either.
And Chris knows nothing about a CPS case at all, so he has no idea. That was the first time he heard it when we brought it up to him. He had no idea.
I know I keep saying I'm going to let you go, but 2 more questions. So
well, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, the next one is the doll photo. Tell us about the doll pic.
Yeah.
Who took it?
If you look at the numbers of the pictures,
I'm going to put it up on the screen.
It aligns with Shanann's numbers of pictures. Chris did not take that picture. And on top of that, let me walk you through that.
But wait a minute. If it was in her number of photos, she could have been texted it and saved it, right? and it was in her camera roll. That's
no idea.
Possible.
All I know is Chris was working that day. I do know that. And his dad brought it up in the interrogation.
He did.
I'm pretty sure, he brought it up like right away because they were concerned. I mean, I know that Cindy and Ronnie brought it up to Chris at that point and were concerned.
He said, what did Ronnie say? Like, you may want to look at her Facebook. She put a weird post out there the other day. And then he said something like that this might have been planned or something. He said something like that.
Yeah, they were concerned because that was, after it happened, it was like, oh my gosh. They were looking at like her overreaction to all the nut stuff and how extreme that was. So I believe Frankie came out at one point and said that he had nuts in his closet that she found. And he was kind of saying, well, she didn't freak out on me. Like, okay, well, I mean, I think that they were starting to look at maybe what's going on, like what is happening. But I think that's the emotional response. I don't know that they believe now that happened, but that was definitely like an emotional thought for a second of like, is this possible? They were concerned, but do you have the picture pulled up right now?
I'm pulling it up right now. I'm trying to. I had to find it on the internet because I don't have it at my disposal.
Okay.
Here it is. Okay.
So if you look at that picture, I know that she said that that the girls did it, and I'll say this. I mean, it's a little piece of plastic. I'm sure if the girls touched it, it'd be crinkled, number one. But number two, if you look at where the head is at, if you look where it's tucked under, you see like a tuck, but under, like if you would have put your hands underneath the head, there's a piece that comes out with like a yellow line on it. So it's like it literally is like an adult tucked it under, like took it as a laying out and then tucked it under the head and that bottom piece is out. There's no crinkles on it. There's no like the little girls, like that's a leather couch or pleather couch, and that's a plastic sheet. So plastic material.
It's
so
like
they would have put that up there.
Yeah.
She said it was a twister mat.
It's a twister mat. Yeah.
I'm sure it would have like slid off the doll or slid off the couch. The girls had to play with it for a minute. I don't see them when they call Cece Rampage. I don't see her very delicately being handed this and then placing on top, being able to reach over and tuck it down. I just don't see that being possible. So
I don't see kids doing that either at all. I mean, I don't know. I never thought that kids did it.
Chris has never said he said he did not take it. So, I mean, and his family's worried about it, so I don't know. I have no idea. But for her, in the discovery or something they were talking about picture numbers or something like that it lined up with hers versus his. I don't know. And I know that she was in his phone a lot. And she did mention around the same time, that's what it was. I think she had shared a picture of one of the daughters with a friend. And then I think the picture was in like the next one or like two. The number was like 2 off of that. So I don't know. I know that Chris says he did not do that. So.
Well, I know I can tell you like a child did not wrap that doll.
I mean, I've been around a lot of little kids. I don't, like I said, even reaching over, you would think that there'd be like a body impression, like the pleat where it'd go down. And it actually looks like the pleats come like at the couch. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. It doesn't look like a child touched that. I don't see one child's handprint. And I zoomed on that thing like 1,000 times to see for any finger impressions of a child in plastic. And I haven't found one thing on there. Like I have looked and looked and looked at that thing. From like a forensic aspect, not like an emotional aspect, but literally like, is it plausible that these 2 little children were handed this and they were able to do this? No, I don't think so. But I can do a reenactment. I can go find that child's map and I can do that too, I guess. That'd be interesting, I guess. That'd be kind of cool.
This picture, I don't know. That just freaks me out because you know what's really weird, Kim? And I don't know if you ever even noticed this. Well, not only that, but like, okay, she posted this as one of like her final posts, pretty much. Not the final, but one of the final ones. And then this doll pic. And then when she was in North Carolina, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but I just always thought it was eerie. I don't think there's like any conspiracy behind it, but it was just eerie. She posted pictures of Ronnie digging in the ditch. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I did see that, but I wasn't. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that. Though.
Yeah, like I thought of that. I put that and then like the doll pic together, and I was like, so creepy, just creepy. Like,
well, I do know that a lot of people aren't on her Facebook. You know, they don't have access to her, for like what the friends see. But there's also stuff like when we were on Cindy's profile on Shanann that even I don't think her friends saw because there's like 3 likes still. I mean, every picture has like 60,000 on there. And like she did post some houses from North Carolina that she was looking at. I mean, there's lots that people didn't see. I mean, on her Facebook, I'm not kidding you guys, there's like 50,000 pictures. Like, I'm not even joking you. Like, it is incredible. I could not believe how much was on there. I was like, are you kidding me?
yeah, tons of stuff.
It was crazy. Yeah.
I want to actually, I'm trying to pull up that picture she took of Ronnie. It's so weird. I know she was promoting Thrive or whatever because he had the patches on. I mean, did Ronnie thrive or was it like, hey, Ronnie, will you put this on while because you're shoveling? I want to get a picture.
It was that.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
It was that. I mean, even that
And
was
he
for
was,
Chris, even for,
and he was a good sport, you know? Like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they all did. I mean, Shanann like went and kind of like ran their Facebooks too. Like she would go on Cindy's and post for Cindy. She would go on Chris's and post for Chris. I mean, that's her business, and I think that that's not anything bad. I mean, she was running a business, so that's of course.
No, it's just weird that he happened to be shoveling and and then like a week later
afterwards, you're like,
you look back. It's just something that was just really just kind of creepy to me. I'm looking.
No, there's a lot more than if you're saying that that's what you see on your side. There's like that's like close to the doll pic. There on the friend side, there's like a ton more posts than that. A ton.
It's just almost like
on the friend side.
It's almost just like she got a little sneak peek into her own death. It just really, I don't know. It just really creeped me out. But
really creeped me out. Haunting.
Oh, I just echoed.
That's sad.
Where is that damn picture of him? I can't find it now. They might have, oh, here it is. I got it. There's 2 of them. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. Stuff like that's just kind of eerie to me. But there's the first one. When I first saw it, I didn't notice he had a patch on. I was like, what in the hell? I was like, why would she take that pic and put it on Facebook? But yeah, just kind of creepy.
I mean, that's a sales business, though. But I get it because I mean, I know so many people in businesses like that, and that's what they do. I mean, they're just marketing, and that's what they branding
have.
Themselves.
They have to do it.
Every account, like she was good at that. She did that well. Like that was, I mean, definitely why she did it because she was good at it. She figured that out. So.
We have another comment from Stella Bella.
Okay.
She says there was a video / picture of Bella putting a thermometer up the doll's butt, and she was asking Bella about it. That made me sick. I don't remember seeing that, but did you see that?
So Chris has said that I know that that's been talked about a lot, but that is how she checked her temperature was rectally, and that's probably why she's acting it out because that was normal to them.
God, that's just super.
That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna comment anything more on that.
Okay.
Because I asked Chris about that too. I was like, why was she doing that? And he's like, well, that's how she preferred to take the temperature. And I was like, okay.
I've never done that before, but to each their own. Maybe she thought it was more accurate.
Yeah.
She seems like she was maybe even like kind of a hypochondriac about things, and maybe she felt that was more of an accurate reading.
Maybe, yeah.
You know, I couldn't imagine someone like that in this world of COVID right now.
No, yeah. No.
That would be really hard. So anyway, I think we should wrap it up there. I think that, you know, you do a great job explaining your side of things and matching it up with, you know, whatever discovery or things that have come out and things that have been in the media, things like that. I think you do great with matching it up. And I think some people aren't giving you a fair shot, but I'm willing to hear it out for sure and discuss it. And I think that's important.
Well, I think this, I mean, there's a lot of opinions, but I would love, with the evidence that's there, for more people, not just to say it's wrong, but put together something that they feel is right. If it's just a matter of, I don't believe Shanann did it, well, if you come from a forensic aspect, that doesn't work, That's an emotional aspect. That's fine. You're entitled to that. That is definitely an emotional opinion. I would really like people to come with the discovery and put something together. I mean, like I said, if anything, write a letter to the DA and say, hey, you left us hanging. You kind of messed everything up. Put something together for us, because he's even clearly changed his mind. He's changed crime scene. So, I mean, we put a forensic analysis together based on the evidence, matching versus convention. I mean, it just fit. And we tried with Wisconsin, and it doesn't. So I can't make it up. I can't pretend that all of a sudden she's got petechia when she doesn't. I can't pretend that. I mean, I can't do that. So if people, I get what wanted to say, disregard it, great. But if there's anybody out there that is willing to put together their own forensic analysis, I would love to have a panel and discuss that with them, period. Let's go over the forensic. Let's go over the bruising. Let's go over Cece's collapsed lung. Let's go over Bella's injuries. Let's put that together and find any other explanation. And on top of that, Ashley Banfield put out a video before, which I don't really care for her, but she put out a video with a bunch of experts that said, because they were talking about timeline, is it possible that Chris killed them earlier and all this stuff? And they said the only evidence that would prove that Chris's story or timeline was accurate was if the girls in their autopsy had marbling. Because when you've been passed away for a long time, your blood pools and you'll have like blanching where it's like white from the lowest, like the pressure of wherever it's laying on will blanch it and turn it white, but you'll have blood, like a pool mark. And if they get moved again, they'll have like a different shade of a pool mark. And it's in your tissue, so it's not something you can like hide. And both of the girls had marbling because they were in oil. So water, oil, you'll have, instead of having a pool mark, you'll have that. And then Shanann had some blanching on her right thigh and the right side of her abdomen and down towards her groin. And that was from being in where she was found. So, I mean, all I can do, they keep saying there's no evidence. Yes, there is. There is evidence. It's there for a reason. If someone can explain it differently, please do. I would love for someone to prove me wrong. I want that. Try, please do. I'm open to that.
Can I ask you something? We just got another question, but I was going to ask the same exact thing from Ange. She said, will Chris ever come out and speak publicly? And my question was going to be, will Chris ever be on your channel?
Yeah.
Yes?
We'll have him on our channel.
Really?
I'm going to be releasing a lot. Yeah. I mean, Chris is, he's wanting to be heard. He's wanting to talk. He's wanting to get this going. He wants his day back in court. So yeah, I mean,
amazing. I can't wait to hear it.
We need to figure out what the prison though, like what, because he's so high profile.
Yeah. What you can and can't do.
Yeah. Because when the book was released, I mean, he was put in the hole for 40 days. So
yeah,
they just, for protection. So, I mean, we have to be careful.
But all is good. Like, is all good, like, since you made your first video?
Yes. He's excited.
I mean, everything's good on the inside. Everything's good on the inside.
Everything. Well,
besides
they have COVID right now.
Besides him giving away underwear and toiletries.
Okay. Can I clear that up real quick?
Yeah.
He was not found in that guy's cell or whatever.
Yeah, can we talk about can we talk about why they have Vaseline?
I just say, is it lube or Vaseline?
Okay, it was Vaseline. It's
Vaseline. It's Vaseline.
but a lot of people said, well, what do prisoners use Vaseline for? And I said, well, maybe they have like dry feet or something.
Dry feet. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know. I've never thought about that. I don't know.
Well, other people have, but I mean, come on. Who knows?
All he did was make a purchase as a canteen for him. He didn't have stuff, and he made a purchase. And they are in different units, and so there was an issue with that because that person's not allowed to have all like different things. And so that was addressed with him. I mean, but it wasn't like Chris went into his cell and was there and then left.
Right. It's not like he took his boxers off and left them there.
No.
So they were new boxers.
No.
He basically bought for this guy.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for clearing that up. Can we also clear up the life insurance crap or no?
Yes.
Can we do that real quick?
I can't talk about the details of it, but I can't talk about the details of it because that's private. But I mean, there obviously, that's what it is. It's public record. There was a life insurance policy, I think by default, because like I said, they just explained it. He can't collect on that. And I believe that I watched Scott Rice's thing actually, that it would default to his parents. And I believe that from what it looked like is they were listed, his parents were listed in a claim. And so were they. They were trying to claim it. I think his parents were reached out to because they had to make a claim as well or something. And then obviously it fell out of court. So I have no idea. But I mean, let me tell you something. The Watts have not made a cent off this crime. They have not done anything. They have not been a part of these big, I think they were a part of one thing in the beginning, but they have not done any of that. So I think some of the claims, like they went after all this insurance money and I was like, no. Nuh-uh. I mean, they even were asked, I think, to preview the Netflix and they said no. I mean, they've not been involved in any of that stuff. They haven't been trying to market and get money off of Chris's name. They haven't, nothing. So,
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So let's wrap it up there. I look forward to our next powwow. And,
well, thanks for having me. I mean, like I said, I know people aren't going to want to hear this. They've been told a bunch of stuff for a long time. And I get if it's a his and her side, they're not going to want to hear it. It would be hard. But for the people that are wanting the constitutional side of this, there's those that are out there that do, because I get a lot of fantastic messages from people like that have questioned how it was done. So there's those people, and then there are people on his side that feel like there was injustice. So it's not for everybody, but nothing ever is, obviously.
Right. It isn't. You can't please everybody. But I'm going to tell you something, Kim. 1,100 people for 3 hours doesn't lie. People are interested.
Yeah. I mean, I know there are, because there's a lot of people that have questions. And even if they don't like the answer, I think people still want to know. And even if they don't support what's happening, they still want to know. I mean, clearly, and that's both sides. That's how both sides have been this whole entire time. And like I said, it's not for everybody, but I mean, it is what it is. It's a case. It's everyone. If you're in a case eventually in your life and something happens, you don't think it's right, you have the chance to go back to court. That's why it's there. So it is Chris's right to do this, and they are doing this. And I mean,
when do you expect?
You can't argue with that.
When do you expect it to be filed?
I would say the next few months. It's going to be coming here soon, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, as soon as we can, let's just say that. It's not going to be something pushed out for a long time. As soon as we can, we will be doing it.
Okay. Do you want to recap next weekend?
Might as well.
All right.
I mean, that's the thing is that, like, I know a lot of people, like, I've had people comment and say, I've had to watch videos 5 times because at first, like, oh my gosh. Because people that have wanted answers that are open to getting them are like, holy crud, like, this is not what I thought. And then they have to watch it, and they're watching more as they come out, and they go, oh, because at first it's like the reenactment is whatever, it matches the evidence. So like I said, bring me something else, we'll talk about it. But then you go through more videos and they're having to watch it and digest it, because it's shocking for even the people who've wanted answers. They're like, oh my gosh, this happened. So, because they've not known Chris's side. They've not known what Tammy Lee has done. They've not known how the investigation was or what the family's been through. So I think for people that even want information are still like, holy cow, because I think they've settled with the fact of like, we'll never get it. And now that it's coming out, and now that it's a real possibility this is happening, it's like, whole brace. I think they're bracing themselves, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, everyone's entitled to be out speaking about whatever they want to. We live in that's one of our freedoms here. And I am just putting out the information that I know. And that's it.
Someone's saying that Scott Reich made a video about why it's too late for Chris, and they wanted you to watch that and then kind of
right. So
give
they
your...
were. I've seen that. So we've seen a lot of that stuff. Like I said, that we look at a lot of professionals or people that like that for their opinions and what's going on. Now, like I said, you have to look at, there's more to just the fact that he said this story, he had the story up there. Like I said, Tammy Lee, 100% what I just talked about earlier is a constitutional right that Chris had that was broken. So those are things that people have not thought about because they also haven't had the information. They didn't know that happened. So that's the thing, is you only can talk about information based on how much you know. And that's our whole point of giving more information, because people are talking about based on what they know, which is not their fault. I mean, that's what you do in any situation. So we're just trying to say that there's more out there. There is more that's there. And so that is the process. There are certain things and requirements to have a 35C, and we've met those requirements. There is more to that, because there will be charges against other people in this case for things that have happened. And there's a path we got to go down. So you got to start at the bottom and work your way to the top.
Yes.
So that's where we're at.
I want to address something that people have brought up, and someone just brought up in chat about you turning off your comments on your videos. And I want to speak as a creator. Yeah. I have also turned off comments, and I meant to tell you this earlier when I talked to you. I've turned off comments when people are just being nasty. It's counterproductive to your video. So I've turned off comments, because if someone comes along and they want to watch my video and they look at the comments first and it's nothing but garbage, they're not going to watch it. So I don't blame you, girl. I would never turn comments on any of your videos.
Well,
I would,
and I don't want the harassment to people. I mean, on either side.
And who wants to sit there and have to delete? Forget about it. That's why they're not on, y'all. That's why.
Like the harassment.
It's a waste of time.
I don't like the harassment.
You can spend your time making videos, or you can spend your time sitting there monitoring comments. No thanks. You know?
Yeah.
So I don't blame you.
I also don't like the bullying. People get real personal and will go to like something's a comment. They'll go to their profile and like bring their kids into it. And I'm like, what are you doing? So I don't like either side. I don't want fingers being pointed on either side. I don't want,
me either.
If someone that believes differently comes over, I don't want them to attack them. So if they want to complain, they can take it back to their channel, or they can take it to their friend circle, but that's not productive. It's not kind.
No, it takes away from your work and your message, regardless of what your video is about. And as the channel creator, like, you have the right, if you want to have comments on or not. Yeah. And that doesn't even matter. Yeah. It doesn't mean you're not open to hearing people out, but no one wants to be bombarded with garbage.
Well, that's why I put my email there. Yep. If you want to say that to me, then say it to me only. Don't say people on my channel. That's my thing. Is if you want to blow up my freaking
email her yourself,
then say it. I don't like the tug of war in the comments. And so that's why I did it, so that I can personally be responsible for my content, and anyone who's coming is safe to come and like view it and like see it there, and they're not in fear of that. And the people that want to leave nice comments, they can email me too. I take it out of.
Well, not once have I heard you say. Not once have I heard you say, "Oh no, I won't answer that." Or, I mean, you've been an open book, so.
Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, I get the people. I said that 100 times. I get people are mad. I get people are not happy. I get people from every other side in this that do not like this, and I get it. But it doesn't mean that we're not entitled to it, and that Chris is not entitled to go back to court.
Well, they don't have to watch.
And have his day, so
they don't. Yeah, they don't have to watch.
Absolutely.
Kim's her YouTube channel is in the description. Allegedly, you can find it there. Okay.
Allegedly.
No, that's his name. Allegedly.
I do appreciate the comments. I do. I mean, anything that I can answer or that I know, I'll tell you. If you don't like the answer, I'm just giving you all I know. I'm not going to make it up. I'm just going to say what I know. That's it. And that's as far as I go. That's it.
Yes,
so
Valerie.
You have me on your channel.
Oh, absolutely. Valerie, she said go ahead and email her. So.
Yeah, my email's for chriswatts@gmail.com.
All right, there you go. All right, thanks so much, Kim.
You're so welcome. Thanks, I really appreciate it.
All right, we'll see ya.
Okay, we'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Dre, are you there still? Did you fall asleep?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is my mic good?
Oh, it's perfect now. I don't know what happened.
I don't either, because it's been plugged in the whole time.
Oh my God. I need to decompress after this live.
Oh, me too.
Whew. All right. Well, the people that are here and were respectful and asking their questions, even voicing your opinion in a respectful way. I'm not deleting people who give their opinion. I'm deleting people who are disrespectful.
Yeah.
It's just uncalled for, man.
Yeah, and insulting one's intelligence and
yeah. Moderators, you were awesome. Awesome. Can't thank you enough. I know you guys are going to get carpal tunnel with these Watts lives that we do. Crazy case, man. Oh my God. Oh, well, I think that, I think Kim's just being an open book and she's open to questions. And I mean, what more can you ask for, really? I mean, no one else is doing it.
Exactly. And I mean, here's my thing.
I mean, we're getting fed fluff from Netflix. Why shouldn't they tell their story?
Well, and I mean, I like to see it from all sides. I mean, there's some things that I didn't agree with, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, this is bullshit.
Yeah,
You're a liar.
I'm not going to argue with her, but I mean, like the drinking thing that I need more proof on that, because that loses me. And I think that it loses a lot of people that not having, having that solidified.
Exactly.
Because even if she did have a glass or two of wine, who cares? So that's where I'm at with that. So I'm waiting for more to come out. Like, she's only like not even a little like eighth into this whole thing, like she's not even a quarter of the way there. This just started coming out. She just started releasing all this research and deep dives. So if you're open to deep dives about Nicole Kessinger, who you don't even know was involved, and you're into that and you're going to spend hours watching that, then why wouldn't you give this a chance and hear it out? Where's the harm in that?
Yeah.
What's it going to hurt? I don't know.
Exactly.
I want to hear it all. So give me more. So anyways, all right, I'm going to bed. It's 1:30 in the morning here. Holy crap.
Oh my God.
Which is not unusual for us, right?
No,
I'll be texting you. I'll sleep for 2 hours. I'll be texting you at 4 a.m. Oh, I forgot this.
Look on this page of the Discovery.
Yeah. But tell me, how many people are going to tune in if she has Chris on her channel one time?
Exactly.
Everybody wants to hear this stuff. They really do.
Yeah.
They really do.
Like I said in the past, it's the good, bad, and the ugly. You know what I mean? You want to hear it from all sides, whether you agree with it, you don't agree with it,
Take it all in.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, wait, hold on. We just got a message. Chrissy R., my husband said you're going to have to support my wine habit, Jay. I don't know. I don't think I can afford that, Chrissy.
We're going to have to get her a winery.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, mods, again. And thank you, Dre.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, next Saturday, same time, same place, we will recap the Watts revelation. Dun, da, da, da.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. Good night, girl. Good night, chat.
All right. Night, guys.